the startups over these 2 days, filled with other activities and events to help prepare the startups, not only for today, but for tomorrow and the rest of their careers. I'm giving away my best material, and they're not even here yet. Again, if you can hear me, you're probably in the other room. If you can see me, you're in the right room. I'm just going to keep yelling that until, I know you're getting tired of it, but I'm just going to keep yelling at it as they start filtering in. And my lovely Katie's going to give me a sign when she wants me to move on to the next bit. And the startups are in place. And the jury, don't want to give it away any surprises, but you see this lovely table in front of me with 4 lovely chairs adorned with water bottles and notes for our jury that is going to be joining us shortly. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell any jokes. I learned my lesson this morning. I did have like 3 or 4 planned, but I keep them in my back pocket. We've all learned our lesson. It's a funny thing because what I tell the startups I work with, and when they go to pitch and present, I say, leave comedy to the comedians. A lesson that I unfortunately had to relearn this morning. So again, if you can see me, what room are you in? The right room. If you can hear me, you're probably in the other room having amazing conversations, meeting amazing people, tasting amazing food, seeing amazing things, but you can't see me and you might miss out on our next bit, which is a round of growth pitches. I'm not going to give away that surprise. That's as well another lesson I've been learning. Come on in, find a seat. There are many available, especially the front row, as Stuart pointed out, which is always left vacant. Don't worry, I don't bite. So, actually, there is a bit of super important information that, in fact, it's not just me sort of filling air and blowing hot steam in your faces, but in fact, we do need our judges to come down and fill these seats so we can move forward. And we do need our startups. There are 2 of them, 3 of them. EM Guidance, are you in the room? Yes, they are. I like that. Punctual, ready to go. Awesome. So when you're ready, you can just slide up here to our startup waiting area loading zone. We also have Finclusion, which I'm not going to give away what industry they work in, but I think we can all guess. Finclusion, are you in the area? Are you in the room? Are you outside of the room? Finclusion, whenever you're ready, just make your way down, collect your grand prize. I see a couple of our jury members sliding in. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And last but not least, Tirhal. Tirhal, are we in the area? Are we in the zone? Are we in the room? All right, so before I can continue, I'm going to need these startups to make their way down to stage right. And our judges are filling in the seats. They're shaking hands. They're getting to know each other. Good. We need a good, cohesive jury. Know each other and are ready to collaborate and judge these startups. So I've got GM Guidance. Do I have Finclusion and Tirhal? Tirhal, thank you. Excellent, brilliant. So I do have Tirhal. I need Finclusion to make your way to the stage, and we are still missing 1 jury member. Finclusion is in the room, sauntering down the side corridor, surely fearing the pressure and the moment. And the big moment, and our last jury member is sitting down. Thank you very much for joining us. And I see more and more of those seats being filled. It makes me very happy. But it's not just for me. It's not just so that you can hear me and see me, but it's also so that you can see the lovely startups that are going to pitch for you. In this round, you're going to be listening at Series B funding. These are startups that have fortunately stopped asking family, friends, Kickstarter, and the like to help them get off the ground, but now have started gaining traction in a meaningful way, and now are ready to hit the next phase in their career and, dare I say, journey. It's a word you hear a lot today, journey, but I want to reassure all the startups present that usually when you get out into the world and you speak to somebody about raising your own company, and I've lived this personally because I own my own company, I say, oh, I run my own business, and they say, oh, that's so great, you must have so much free time. You can make your own schedule. And I smile and say, yes, it means I can make my own schedule, and I work nights, weekends, and holidays. It's lovely, right? But here's a special place because, in fact, everybody here probably understands and knows that journey intimately. They know the ups, the downs. They know how disheartening or sometimes jubilant these moments can be. And so when you speak to people, you're in safe hands. You're in good hands. Have a conversation, right? So we've got our startups. We've got our jury. You're sick of me yelling at you. So without further ado, should we kick it off? What do we say? Stuart, do you have your microphone in hand? No, you don't. I've got a couple of microphones over here. Fantastic. I'm going to take them in my hand. Fantastic. Thank you. Microphones are hot and live. Pitching in that in order. Can I have GM Guidance make his way to the stage, please? So just so you guys know, they're going to have 5 minutes of pitching. There's going to be 3 minutes of question and answers from the jury. And then later, we're going to find out who the champion of this session will be. But notice that there's a difference between success and winning. Come on up, GM Guidance. Don't be shy. Don't bite. Difference between success and winning, meaning that you can win the trophy, you can take home the grand prize, but the real reason of success is to make those connections and get to know people and continue on the journey, making new friends, acquaintance, and partners along the way. Do we have 5 minutes on the clock? Yes? We have jury members up. We've got our monitor downstairs. You've got your clicker, you've got your... Brilliant. I'm going to let him take it away. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, my co-founder and I worked as medical doctors here in South Africa and across the African continent. And one of the key challenges we faced was selecting and prescribing the right drug or the right combination of drugs. And one of the reasons for this is navigating the complexities of any local medicine market, the regulation, how products are packaged and branded locally, but most importantly, how drugs should scientifically be used with respect to the local population and disease burden. This is often an insurmountable amount of data and a challenge for an overburdened healthcare professional. So we decided to do something about it. And a good couple of years ago, we started with a small crazy team of pharmacists and doctors, and we spent a few years aggregating all the medicines and pharmaceutical data in our country, and making that data smartly searchable through a very clever mobile application. And created what is effectively the first intelligent medicine search engine for South African healthcare professionals. Today, EM Guidance is the most popular medical application in the South African healthcare community. We generate more than 1 million searches a month in every nook and cranny of the country. And this is across over 40,000 healthcare professionals. We commercialized the platform by establishing a model with multinational pharmaceutical companies where they participate, engage, and interact with healthcare professionals on the site, generate insights from them. But importantly, we did so in a manner that is medically supportive and doesn't disrupt the clinical integrity and the independence of the site. At this stage, nearly all large multinationals operating in South Africa, including companies like Pfizer, Novartis, J&J, participate on our software as a service, customer engagement and analytics platform, with 7 revenue lines ranging from things like digital product education, to tools to connect doctors to reps, to even most recently online conferencing. Our annual recurring subscription revenues now track into the millions of dollars. Importantly as well, the National Department of Health fundamentally endorses and supports the platform. Most recently, since our last presentation at AfricArena, we've executed a large multi-country regional deal with a Swiss-based multinational to expand and support the expansion in 4 regions in the territory, giving us a total of commercial commitments across 7 countries in the region. From a team perspective, we've got the right heavyweight support from a commercial B2B sales expertise perspective, operations and data, senior leadership and professorship in medicines and pharmacology, and even ex-C-suite pharmaceutical, medical specialist, shareholders and advisors. From a competition perspective, there are multiple large US and European-based medical and healthcare platforms in our space. most importantly, the unique advantage of EM guidance is in our technology and processes to effectively localize medicines and healthcare data to a local setting. The growing network of local platform stakeholders, as well as the rich solution for pharma, which all in all create an effective moat around the platform. It's very difficult to unseat us as the central digital medicines hub for the territory. So where's this all going? The untold truth is that as doctors and patients, mostly we get medicines wrong. Either we are completely overprescribing, we're not getting the right drugs to the right patients that need them. The WHO indicates that in many as 50% of cases, there's some error on a medicine prescription or administration. Now, if you reflect that on the fact that globally, the medicines economy is upwards of $1.5 trillion, the sheer economic loss to patients, health systems, companies in the space makes this a multi-billion-dollar problem. And most importantly, a problem that affects hundreds of millions of lives across the globe. So my team and I see EM guidance in our future as a global platform, serving to reduce medicine's error and optimize medicine usage. And importantly, we seek that it serves the emerging market and developing world where these problems are rife. And lastly, we don't only see EM guidance as a platform to support pharmaceuticals and healthcare professionals, but every critical stakeholder in the medicines ecosystem, including insurers and payers, whom we were listening for. And most importantly, we seek to bring, through technology and data, the power of autonomy and medicine's choice, an intelligent and safe medicine choice, to the hands of the patient. Thank you.
Let's hear from our jury for a few question and answer.
Hello. Hi. Cool, thanks for that. A lot to take in a short period of time. So what's always interesting for me is to try and understand your traction. You may not want to share your revenue numbers, but just you talked about in the millions of dollars, and I'd also be interested in your growth rate, because if that's happening, you're growing quickly and you've got traction, it verifies a lot of what you've said here.
Sure. So the question is about traction predominantly.
Traction and
yeah.
growth. Great.
Yeah. Between 2019 and 2020, we grew by 400%. You know, we're probably on track for just over 100% growth this year as well. And of course, in the beginning, there was a bit of a take on. And we do intend for that to project 100%, if not more, year on year at least, going forward. Thank you for appreciating that I'm not going to share the specific revenue numbers at this stage, but to kind of give you a sense, we can sign at this stage, you know, a annual subscription revenue on the existing product set of $100,000 upwards with an existing farmer per country. And so you can kind of multiply that by the countries and get a sense of what we're doing. However, we've signed deals that are much larger than that, and certainly from a product expansion perspective, there are an immense amount of problems to solve for these big multinationals, and we expect kind of average deal sizes to grow over the next couple of years. So I hope that kind of gives you a sense of where we are.
Yeah, a quick comment from my side. Congratulations on scaling outside of South Africa. First of all, really well done. I think that's something that a lot of investors will also look at, is your ability to scale outside of your home market. What do you see as the next frontier for expansion, going to new markets? What are your thoughts around that?
So that's a very interesting question, and we think about it a lot internally. I think, firstly, just from a product market fit perspective, our solution is generally applicable in any health system, but it's more so applicable in, I use this word, disorganized health systems that have several problems and lots of kind of disparate and separate actors in the medicine space. And so we feel that we've definitely more relevant across the continent, but also large home markets like large markets like the Middle East, India most definitely, and Brazil. A big part of our directionality is coattailing on our clients. And for global pharma, the Middle East, Africa corridor is quite significant. In fact, many of our clients, the regional hubs, sit in the Middle East, in Dubai, for example. So it's far easier for us in the short-term phase to deploy, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, and then next big markets include big African economies like Egypt and the Middle East. We'll have a little bit of a language challenge if we go West Africa, and that's something to think through. But the big gains would really be in places like India on the one hand, Brazil on the other hand, and Indonesia.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Give him a round of applause, please. Exit down to the stage left, past the microphone and the clicker. We're just going to give it a good spritz. Whoops, keep away from the speaker. Just the time to be sanitarily responsible. And please give a big round of applause for Finclusion taking the stage right now. Excellent. You know the drill, 5 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes of question and answer. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much for giving us a slot today. So Finclusion is building a neobank for Africa. Ultimately, for us, the big challenge in Africa we see is that customers live paycheck to paycheck. Mobile phone penetration is going up. The working population is growing rapidly. But there is continuously limited credit available to customers in sub-Saharan Africa. There is a 20% private credit to GDP penetration in Africa, which is 60% in other emerging markets. Credit card penetration sits at about 9% across the continent. Formal credit lines aren't available to over 400 million of working sub-Saharan Africans. And the credit that is available at predatory rates of 50 to 100%. And that's not per annum, but it's per term, which can be as short as a single month. So what's the solution? The solution is a credit-led growth strategy underpinned by superior credit risk modeling. We do all our credit risk modeling on the back of transactional features, behavioral data. We take transactional features from bank statements, from mobile money statements, because there is transactional data out there. We've scored with our technology over 3 million loans. And in total, including predecessor entities, given out over $1 billion worth of credit volume into the continent. So what's our initial core offering? We focus on payroll and earned wage access. Why? Marketing in Africa is very expensive. We want to market to a captive audience. Focusing on earned wage access allows us to market through employers, through partners, where we know that all of the underlying individuals need credit and can afford to have credit. Our products are focused on those with income. We can't address the ultimate poverty level with people earning $1 or $2 a day. But anyone earning upwards of about $200 a month falls within our target audience and is within the clients we can provide credit. Once we give out those additional credit products, we focus on adding other products, be it insurance, be it also credit finance for products and goods. There is an incredible limitation on the access to services and goods across the continent. So earned wage access in our current target markets in South Africa and East Africa, there's a working population of about 80 million individuals. Once we go into West Africa, there's a further 60 million working individuals out there. In total, that's 150 million people that easily can afford a loan of $1,000 upwards each, which means that on an annual basis, that entire market is a $100 billion plus market across the continent, of which we only have to capture a very small subset. The same applies in buy now, pay later, where people need goods and services. People need access to products because it's not just about giving them credit, it's about giving them access to things they previously did not have. So how do we go to market? We go to market with employers. We focus on hospitals, schools, formal retail stores, as well as the mines. All of these have employees upwards of 200 employees, which means that it's easy for us to get to reasonable scale within time. Ultimately, our long-term vision is that we want to build a neobank for underserved Africa, which means we start with lending, loans, earned wage access, buy now, pay later, but we'll grow into payments, deposits over time, as and when customers need services. But today, we truly believe the gap exists in where there's credit offered and where there's credit needed. Since we've started building, we officially opened Finclusion in 2018. We've come a long way. We've opened operations in South Africa, Eswatini, Kenya, Tanzania, and Namibia. And we've served 250,000 clients, built up a $17 million loan book to date, and are currently up to about $2.5 million monthly disbursements, which is a doubling of about a year ago. We've kept our actual loan book flat over the last 12 to 18 months, which was really a function of where the market was. Unfortunately, in COVID, a credit-led strategy meant we had to slow growth because not everyone could afford credit. But right now, we've just closed a $20 million funding line from Lendable, which allows us to double our loan book over the next 6 months and grow it from there further and further. As and when we grow the loan book, we'll basically follow a general strategy. That means initially, we focus on payroll and earned wage access, provide employees initial loans on the back of their salary, and allow them to access that credit easily and quickly. We then subsequently add merchant-driven distribution where we allow people to buy products and services through credit, either with interest rates or without, but always focusing on affordability. And finally, we'll basically add SME lines. We'll provide working capital facility, those of our partners that still need it. In our different geographies, we're at different stages of maturity. In South Africa, we have an active payroll and earned wage access book. We currently don't do SME lending, but in Kenya, we have the full suite of products live. And I think ultimately, what truly sets us apart from many of the others in the industry is the amount of loans we've actually successfully granted to date, the amount of applications we get, and the amount of data we've gathered on 250,000 clients. Because on all of these clients, we know what they earn, we know what they spend, and we know how they spend it. And for us, the future of financial services is not just servicing people with credit, but ensuring we service them with credit for those products and services that they truly need and want. And that, for us, is where we think we can grow over the next few years. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic. 3 minutes on the clock for question and answer. Let's hear from the jury.
Thank you very much for this presentation. So I can see you are already in many countries. So can you tell us about your growth strategy in the coming 3 years? Where do you see yourself? Yeah.
So I think we will go into Mozambique and Uganda in the next 6 to 12 months, and probably within the next 3 years would also add Nigeria. Generally, our growth strategy is to build a payroll earned wage access book in each of these markets of about $10 million. Building a $10 million loan book in a market will allow us to operate profitably in that market. From there, we roll out asset-backed finance through buy now, pay later or other asset finance channels that allows us to augment profitability, grow customer revenue, potentially add insurance. And thereafter, we'll focus on bringing on board cards, deposits, and other financial products that the underlying customers need, as well as insurance. So I think it's one, further geographies, focus on core product, build scale, and then quite quickly roll out further products.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the presentation. Excellent presentation, by the way, and very good pitch. What I would like to know is, you said you know where the customers spend their money on. How do you know that?
So when we give credit, we basically get access to their bank account statements as a prerequisite, and more also their mobile money statements. And especially through COVID, the amount of cash payments has gone down. Obviously, if someone spends their money in cash, we don't. But whenever they spend it digitally, we can actually calibrate what money was spent on. And just as an example, in South Africa, if you spend Woolworths from the till code, we can actually see if you paid for goods and services in the food section of Woolworths or in the clothing set of Woolworths. So we know it to a great degree of certainty. There is obviously no perfection. Where we partner with merchants, we'll get an exact breakdown of the basket of goods and services that you've acquired, so we can further store that data and start determining how you've spent your money historically and what that might mean for how you would want to spend your money going forward.
And last question, why do you go multi-geo versus multi-product first?
The scalability of the lending, I think there's a huge opportunity right now. There's an incredible demand for credit. I think some of our markets, such as South Africa, have a very strong banking penetration where banking products are less necessary than lending. And we can scale and grow lending incredibly profitably because the profit margins in credit are there. Banking is a long-term strategy where with transactional fees we make money over time. And I think that opportunity on the wage streaming and payroll lending side, it's there now. It's going to basically get smaller over time as and when people capture the customers. And I think it's important to have that first mover advantage in each market.
Last question from my side, what makes you unique? I mean, there's tons of lenders in Africa already. What is it that you make better than everybody else?
So I think we've, and this is obviously, including what we do as Finclusion, but also my prior experience. We've been here for over 10 years. We know regulations inside out, and we've granted over $1 billion worth of credit through these algorithms. Our data is deeper than most other lenders have access to or knowledge of.
All right, thank you so much. A big round of applause for Finclusion. Thank you. You can exit stage right. Now, speaking again, as I just said a moment ago, speaking of journeys, our next startup has an incredible journey and an incredible story to share about how he got here. Give a big round of applause for Tirhal, please.
Hello, everyone. So, just as mentioned, we had a really interesting journey getting here. So, just the week after the summit in Tunisia, we're still, getting a hold of the connections, trying to really make the best of it. The Sudanese military decides to disband the government and basically, create a coup, disconnecting the internet from most of the population. Embassies were shut down, everything, crawled to a halt. People were protesting in the streets, and I don't have to mention to everyone here how long the visa process can take to every African country. So just imagine us sitting every day trying to go to the South African embassy, trying to get a visa, trying to get here. And the first time we actually go through and they actually open was yesterday. So up until yesterday, 2 p.m., we didn't have a visa. We got the visa, flew straight away here, and just to bring you guys this pitch. So I hope you enjoy it.
All right, give him a big round of applause for that. 5 minutes on the clock. Let's hear your pitch.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Hassan Haider, and I'll be pitching on behalf of Tirhal. So Tirhal is Sudan's largest ride-hailing company. It was started in 2016 when our co-founders really saw the issue that Sudan was having with transportation. There was no simple way to get from point A to point B. There is minimum taxi presence and a bus system that is both inconvenient and unreliable. So started in 2016, right away we had a great market fit, so much so that we expanded out of the capital of Sudan, which is Khartoum, into 3 of the most major states. By 2018, we were doing more than 1 million trips per month. We had more than 1.5 million customers and more than 40,000 drivers. So that's when our idea really evolved into convenience. So we would like to provide our customers with the most convenience possible while empowering the drivers as much as we can. So that's when we started developing our new app with convenience in mind, adding services such as bus routes and carpooling, and expanding and planning to expand more with new services such as express mail, parcel, food delivery, and hopefully bring that convenience into the international market, of course, starting with the African market. So what sets us apart in the ride-hailing industry itself is whatever you need, we have. You need your standard car just to pick you up. Our economical option is there. If you want a more prestigious car, if you want pickups, if you want a van or a larger car, or even if you prefer a female driver, which has really, broke some boundaries in Sudan and helped empower women and get them their own financial freedom. Of course, this advantage has made our numbers great. We had more than 27 million completed trips since 2016, creating more than $9 million in revenue. And we're currently doing more than 800 booked trips monthly with more than 80,000 registered drivers. Tirhal was actually the first Sudanese app to cross the 1 million downloads mark, and we're currently sitting at the 3 million plus downloads. As you can see, Sudan is a very challenging, environment to play in. Political uncertainty, lockdowns, internet lockdowns, COVID lockdowns, and inflation have all, hit Tirhal, but we are very resilient, as proven by us being here right now. And we've managed to stay consistent, and you can see our traction. We're making more than 300, or on average $300,000 per month. That's revenue, so that puts our GMV at more than $1.5 million per month. How did we do this? Our great team, of course, led by our CEO and co-founder, Mohammed Al-Zaki, and people from the top companies in Sudan and outside Sudan. For example, our CFO from World Bank, our CTO from Expresso Group, and Afis, our branding manager, who was responsible for some of the most creative campaigns in Sudan with Sudatel, and our specialized team members such as Inas from Sudapost, who's handling the Post project. This has allowed us to dominate the Sudanese market when it comes to ride-hailing. We have an 88% market share in ride-hailing and almost 30% market share when it comes to transportation overall. The 70% public transportation share is actually an opportunity for Tirhal, because the public transportation in Sudan is not run by the government. It's people with their cars, and Tirhal aims to capture those people and improve their lives. In Sudan, everyone knows Tirhal, everyone uses Tirhal. It's more or less like the Google it of Sudan. So people don't say, I want a cab, they say, I want a Tirhal. So that was proven by a third-party research firm that proved Tirhal has a 99% brand recognition. And it's always mentioned when people know about ride-hailing apps. Of course, ride-hailing is a very tough industry to be profitable in, but Tirhal has managed to stay net positive with a $5 passenger CAC, resulting in 34 LTV, and the driver CAC of $20, resulting in more than 360 LTV. As I said, everyone in Sudan uses Tirhal, all the major segments. We have 30% of families, young adults, young students, businessmen, businesswomen. Every major segment in Sudan is using Tirhal right now. And getting real convenience out of it and empowering the drivers through that. So what's next for us? Well, we've already started, shifting towards the convenient part. So our super app is ready. It just needs to be finalized, and we're expanding both vertically and horizontally. So vertically, within adding more services, such as I said, parcel delivery, express mail, anything that makes the customer's life easier, and there's a service provider to it that needs to connect to a customer. We hope to do that through Tirhal. And expanding that convenience throughout Africa. So we have plans to expand, within Greater Sudan, of course, and in many African countries such as Congo and Tanzania. And that's the road ahead. This has not been, this has not fallen on deaf ears when it comes to the community. Tirhal has been mentioned in most of the major news outlets, and we have partnerships with most of the major companies in Sudan, including car service companies, banks, telecom companies. And it's actually interesting that NGOs, embassies, and hotels recommend Tirhal to their people, to their beneficiaries without us having to say it. We have done all of this with minimal funding because Sudan has been in the sanctions list, so our Series A is now 10 million. Of course, investors are always looking for the stock that goes to the moon. We go to the moon 9 times a month in Tirhal, so that's not an issue for us.
All right, thank you so much. Give a big round of applause. Now let's hear from our jury for a few moments.
Cool, thanks for the prezo.
Thank you.
So we've had some insight into Bolt. We invested in Bolt in 2019. I'm just interested to know, who are the big threats and what do you do? How do you compete against the likes of Bolt, Uber, very well funded? Yeah, what's your differentiator when the big guys see Sudan and say, wow, that's actually quite attractive? Or have they already been there and you've beaten them?
Well, yeah, great question. So a two-parter. Our advantage is, really understanding the Sudanese market and knowing the African market as a whole. Africa itself is more diversified, than the rest of the world basically combined. So we've identified the key parameters that we need to look at with our huge sets of data, analyzing that and going through it, and finding the key points where we can get the best customers for the lowest CAC and the best drivers for the lowest CAC as well, and making them stick. So, really digging deep into that data and finding the key major, pain points. One of the examples that you mentioned, Kareem actually entered Sudan for a while, and it was a major competitor for us. But, our understanding of facing that Sudan, that diversity in it, has really managed to stay us, to keep us afloat basically and make us beat them in the end.
Would that actually hinder you to enter other African markets? I mean, you say you have a lot of data on African markets, but from what you just said and what you presented, it seems that it's Sudan, right?
Yeah, we have data about Sudan, and we have the know-how how to generalize that. For example, we would know how would we make, a driver sticky in a part of the world that has, similar culture to Sudan. So if you look at the big three, for example, if you look at Uber and Kareem, Uber is more Western phasing, if you can say that, and that's a more hegemonist-like way of life. Kareem is, to one extent, more Middle Eastern phasing. That's also less diverse. So really, analyzing the data, finding the key points that you actually look at. It's an interesting story, but, so finding the key points, hitting them, lowering the CAC and extending the LTV, basically.
So you mentioned your Series A, which is 10 million.
Yeah.
How would you use the funds? Do you have an idea?
Yes, of course. So the fund itself, as I said, we'd complete our transition into a convenience service. So being a super app instead of just a ride-hailing app. Adding a lot of the services I just mentioned, delivering anything, linking up any service provider with the customer that needs them. In addition to that, really hitting the African market strongly. Like we have, we've looked really well at Tanzania, for example, or Congo, and these are really potential areas that we would just need, that beginning fund to really go through and actually, gain quite a bit of traction.
All right, thank you very much. A big round of applause for our startups. A big round of applause for Jerry. You can come down. Thank you very much. It's going to be a hard choice for our jury. I'm glad you all look at all those smiling faces, look at all those seats filled. I love it. Not just for me, but of course for our startups and our jury. They're filling out the last of their notes. But I'd like to thank them one more time. If we could get a nice round of applause for our jury while they grab their notes and stand up from their seats if they're ready. Michael stays, of course. You're a special guy, Michael. But otherwise, I'd like to call down to the stage Craig and John, our jury members, who are going to be joining us. And of course, the next round is going to be a proper battle between 3 startups. They will occupy this stage. They will have 3 minutes to pitch and 2 minutes of question and answer. This is a challenge sponsored by a corporate sponsor, Saint-Gobain, if I can try to say it with an American accent. Because this morning we heard a lot about the dynamics and the go-between between government and startup and how that collaboration is ultra necessary. But as you know, there are a lot of moving parts in these ecosystems, a lot of moving parts that help a startup move along their way and gain traction and become a success. And obviously, corporate sponsors are a huge part of this. This is a mutually beneficial relationship that satisfies everybody around the table. So thank you, Saint-Gobain. I could welcome Damien Perlong, if I didn't slaughter your name. Damien Perlong, a round of applause for our sponsor, please.
So good afternoon, everyone. Very pleased to be here with you this afternoon. Very excited as well to listen to the 3 challenges, or 3 pitches later on. Just a few words to introduce each challenge and to start with Saint-Gobain. To start with, our vision is to be the worldwide leader in light sustainable construction. So what do we do in Saint-Gobain? We design, we manufacture, and we distribute products and solutions for mobility, for healthcare, for habitats, for constructions, and also for industrial application, and this for the last 350 years. If I mention that, is that just to show you the history of the company and why we are looking for what will bring our business for the next 350 years. It's quite important. That's why we are here today. We are more than 170,000 people worldwide in 70 countries. And Saint-Gobain in Africa is growing. We are now present in 12 countries. We have more than 20 or 29 industrial sites. And 9 of them have been built in the last 2 years to show you that despite the pandemic, we have been growing and we plan to continue. In our operations in Africa, so to make it more concrete, even more concrete, we basically produce products based on gypsum board, plasters. We make cement mortars. We make abrasives. We make glass for building, glass for automotive. We make insulation as well, glass wool, and all these products to serve the local market. Saint-Gobain's purpose is it's about making the world a better home. So we work with our stakeholders, obviously, to provide solutions towards comforts, towards performance of habitats. And we are also obviously very committed on sustainability. We just engaged to be carbon neutral by 2050, and in fact with more ambitious targets by 2030. I mentioned our strategic growth that we just launched, which is Grow and Impact, with 6 priorities, but I will mention 3 of them which make sense today. First one is obviously sustainability. We aim to provide solutions to our customers, to home installers about sustainability. We have sustainability in our DNA, and we do develop our products with this in mind. We run our operations with more and more circularity. Innovation is one of the key priorities. In our business, in building materials, where our products are quite a long lifetime, we are trying to develop products on just to give you an highlight, 25% of our sales revenue are from products which are less than 5 years old, which in our markets is quite impressive. And we want to push it further. And it's about products and it's about services. And that's why digital plays a key role as well, because we do believe that digital will help us to grow our business through data collection, through data analysis, through also service to our customers, direct service, or eventually internally to smooth and lean our processes. So innovation and digital, I think that's the key of today. That's the reason why Saint-Gobain has been partnering with AfricArena for the last 3 years. We have been organizing some challenge in different topics, looking for solutions in looking at predict climate change, or trying to develop digital platform to train people, to train installers, to train our applicators. We know that fintech takes a big part of the startup activity in Africa nowadays, and that's why we have been looking also in this area to try to look for some solutions, and that's why we are here today for this challenge, which is also sponsored by Nova, which is our external venture arm within Saint-Gobain. So what is the challenge today? It's about, we are looking for a product market fit solution already in place, so already proven, which serves as a marketplace or a payment platform, which allows customers to buy products and get vouchers, and they can tokenize these vouchers to buy products from Saint-Gobain, obviously with a top value on top of the vouchers. We are looking for startups which have been testing piloting their solutions in markets such as Egypt, Kenya, or South Africa. So that's about the challenge. We are looking for it, and may the best win. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give a big round of applause for our 3 startups who are going to come down, one after the other. Keep that applause going. Raise it up. A lot of energy, high energy. It takes so much energy for them to stand up here. The least you could do is put your hands together. So as you heard a moment ago, 3 minutes to pitch, 2 minutes question and answer. Gentlemen, take it away. There go this up. A pitch deck is never complete without the deck. So we're going to set back that timer. We're going to make sure the title card is up. Saint-Gobain Challenge.
It's a Safeway. Whoever is putting that up, Lupia Sport.
There it is.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sam Degwa. I'm the founder and CEO of Safeway Solutions Limited, a fintech based in Kenya. We run a unified payment platform called Lupia Sport, and we are revolutionizing the way small businesses, especially retail outlets, access digital payments and services. It's a cloud-based all-in-one application, and it gives access to multiple financial services from alternative service providers. So picture this, 50 million people in my country, 45 million wallets. However, central bank says 85% of entrepreneurs who are mainly retailers still access payments in cash. So what's all this digitization and cashless transactions we keep talking about? It's simple. The consumers are highly digitized, but the retailer either does not have the technology to take digital payments, or he's inundated with technology, it's confused him completely. Most retailers lack the basic accounting and stock management capabilities. And that's the struggle John goes through. That's my local grocery store. Looks like a Christmas tree, approached by 8 different service providers, 8 different devices, 8 different accounting statements. This guy is having problems. Needless to say, we've become John's payment therapist. We've given him a simple solution that allows him to manage all his payments on a single platform. So today, John can serve his customers, airtime, bill payments, agency banking, on a single platform and account for everything. He can interact with his suppliers and pay them from the same platform. His customers are now paying him using digital payments, mobile money, and Visa. We've also given John access to his bank account and his mobile money account. He doesn't need to go to the bank. If he doesn't have money in either, he can borrow a loan. John today appreciates the true meaning of digitization. How do we do this? On one end, we have service providers. We embed the services on the platform. We deliver as a payment gateway to online customers, as a mobile application to retailers, and as a web app to bulk payment customers. They can now reach their consumers in a more orderly way. It's a huge market, 5 billion. We're looking at a serviceable, obtainable market of 1.5 billion. If we conservatively look at converting 10%, in the next 3 to 5 years, we should earn about $1.5 million annually. The competition looks at the retailer as a conduit to reach the consumer. What we're doing is fully digitizing the retailer so he can effectively reach the consumer. And we're also giving him access to broader spectrum of customers from different service providers, but more importantly, we're bringing order to the chaos that I just talked about. A formidable team. My co-founder and I have over 20 years experience in the payments industry. My co-founder, Jimmy, has set up M-Pesa, T-Cash in East Africa. And we've been recognized for various challenges as well, EcoBank Fitness Challenge, East African football, FinTech, and we are here at Sangoba. We must be doing something right. We have over 1,000 agents who are eager to take up service. We know that because they used to be our customers on an older system. We have a proof of concept over 100, by over 100 customers right now, and the system is actually ready to go. We're looking for 500,000 seed capital. We want to enhance our services and security on this platform, scale up a team, and also initiate the campaign of all these services that are ongoing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll take questions or the $500,000 in cash. I'm good to go.
A big round for
You won't be disappointed.
Safeway. Thank you very much. 2 minutes on the clock. Let's hear from our jury.
Thanks for the presentation. Can you talk through on your revenue slide, 18, 19 didn't look so good. Did you pivot? What happened?
Yes, this is in the spirit of honesty and transparency. I talked about an old system that we had. We've tested this concept before. We did it with an outsourced partner. Unfortunately, that did not work. These 3 years were used to rebuild what I've just presented today. And you can see the revenue has actually come up now. We're now rolling out the service. We want to monetize this as our own platform, full control, and we're able now to manage it ourselves. We've learned a huge lesson in those years. That's the reason why the revenues fell.
Yeah, thank you for the very good pitch. My question is around your competition. I know that Nairobi is extremely competitive in the fintech space, and you mentioned a couple of them. I just want to know what makes you guys tick, and compared to businesses that have already been there, proven the concept, and captured the market already.
I tell you, I was hoping for that question, and that's why I shared the statistic earlier. One of the things we don't realize in Kenya is that as much as 1 out of every 9 Kenyans, or rather 1 out of every 9 mobile payments made in the world, 1 of them is done by a Kenyan. And it's M-Pesa that runs about 98% of that sector. But what we forget is that 85% of these transactions are still being made in cash. And that's a huge, that's a very huge piece of a market that we have, most of the competition has basically not tapped into. So the difference is, we believe that a lot of consumers make these payments at the retail outlets, and so they have to go withdraw the money from M-Pesa and pay it in cash. And what we're trying to do now is, the competition is basically looking at giving the consumer a solution for their own customers. What we're looking at is digitizing the consumer so he can serve a range of different customers. And that's the real difference. That's what will make the difference to move that 85%, or rather that 15% to 50%.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Big round of applause. And always remember that these startups are going to be here all day, all tomorrow. Please, they're very approachable, very lovely people. I've spoken to them all personally. I have personal experience. Can we get the slide deck up for our next startup? 3 minutes on the clock. There we are.
Okay.
Take
Hello,
it
everyone.
away.
My name is Ahmed Mahmoud. I am the founder and CEO of Ilgamaya. Since we have in Egypt around 1 million marital status per year, and we have more than 2 million parents that are paying for the private school and private education, while the main problem is the average net income for the family in Egypt is only $400 per month. And unfortunately, 70% of Egyptians still unbanked. So most of them are going to traditional ways of financing like ROSCA model, which is rotating savings and credit association. The model of ROSCA is already existing in more than 100 countries around the world. And the total addressable market around the world is more than $350 billion every year. How does ROSCA work for people who are not familiar with it? When group of friends and family agreed on financing and lending each other in a specific period every month. So everyone will pay $1,000 or EGP, and in month number 1 you get the cash, month number 2 you will get the cash, and so on till the end of the period. According to the World Bank, 16% of Egyptians is still doing informal savings, which is around more than 12 million people, with total turnover more than 120 billion EGP. However, they have a lot of issues and problems. They cannot match making the cycle easily. The cash collection, since 70 of them doesn't have any digital payment, and lack of safety and the hassle of managing logistics. So we are digitalizing the concept is already exists in Egypt in only 3 steps. User can find the suitable cycle, pick the suitable months or according to his need, and start building his credit score by uploading national ID, account of Facebook or LinkedIn, and utility bill. And the more documents he provides, the more ceiling we avail to every user. Also, we have the social credit score by our ambassador on ground and the floor. It's a referral program, especially in Upper Egypt and between women and ladies. Our go-to-market strategy mainly based on the B2B2C strategy, with corporates to avail it as a benefit for the staff instead of traditional Gamaya or traditional cash in advance. Also, we have B2B2C with the schools and universities to avail Gamaya as a payment method for people who cannot afford paying it. It's a sort of buy now, pay later based on the ROSCA model. And finally, with NGOs to avail saving accounts to the beneficiaries' families who are benefiting from the NGOs according to the Poverty Graduation Project from the World Bank. So far, we have more than 50,000 users. Our growth since we closed our first round is 700%. We have more than 29 million total EGB. And okay.
So much to say, so little time. Give him a big round of applause, please. Put 2 minutes on the clock for our question and answer, and let's hear from our jury.
Thank you.
So you presented 3 route to markets.
Yes.
Do you have some priorities? What are the potential of each?
You have what?
What are the potential of each, and do you have priorities between these route to market?
30% for each. We consider schools and universities as a differentiator for the market, as we have another player in the domestic market. So schools and NGOs, we consider it as a big differentiator.
But the potential of each of these markets is the same, to be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
Potential? The market is very huge. We have in Egypt more than 100,000 SMEs and corporates. We have around 9,000 private schools and I think 30 private universities, and we have 9 million beneficiaries, families that benefit for the government of Egypt.
Why expand then? I mean, like 3 million doesn't sound a lot. Like if you want to expand and you want to grow the product, why do all at the same time?
I didn't get your question.
So you're saying you want to raise 3 million and you
Yes.
want to expand in three markets, although your market is huge, as you just said. So why expand in 3 markets and grow the product line with only 3 million?
Actually, we just closed our seed round. That will we announce next month, inshallah. This round will start in the beginning of 2020 to expand into North Africa and one of the Gulf countries. It will be a JV, a joint venture capital in the Gulf countries. Thank you.
All right. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Our next startup, 3 minutes on the clock. Take it away.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom, and I'm one of the co-founders of Abela. I'd just like to say thank you to AfricArena and Sengoban for allowing us to tell you a little bit more about our business. Millions of South Africans every day rely significantly on cash as a big portion of their monthly income. During the pandemic, a large portion of these people saw those incomes drastically hurt by an unwillingness from the formal economy to carry cash. In fact, we were encouraged or discouraged by government and banks not to carry or transact in cash at all. This leaves an even bigger gap between the digital formal economy and the cash-based informal one, a large part of which are foreign nationals. South Africa have over 4 million foreign nationals in this country with little or no access to any digital financial services. Abela is a mobile payments company building an ecosystem that allows people to digitally save, use, receive, and send money, creating access to the most basic of financial services with nothing but a cell phone. Our total addressable market is over $4 billion a year. We understand that this is a huge number, and that's why we've tried to break our target market down into strategic segments that we can go after one at a time. Over $1 billion alone was sent from South Africa back home to neighboring countries on the continent just last year, and South Africa's informal economy makes up 18% of annual GDP. We have worked extremely hard with a wide range of different partners to build a robust ecosystem that aims to give the informal economy the same financial autonomy and security that is given to us in the formal one. After having run a successful pilot and gathering tons of feedback, we realized that we needed to offer our customers a wide range of products and services that would allow them to use our platform intuitively. This includes, but is not limited to, cash deposits and virtual and physical cards that we facilitate online and in-store purchases. Our traction since we launched last year, we've grown to over 30,000 customers, processed thousands of transactions, sold over 250,000 Rand in value-added services, integrated a number of different remittance partners and global utilities, and contracted with one of South Africa's major banks. My name is Tom. I have over 6 years' experience managing projects for both fintech and RegTech businesses, and my partner and CTO, Amri, has spent the greater part of the last decade building platforms for impact startups. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Let's roll back that clock. Let's hear from our jury.
Thank you very much for the good pitch. Could you just go back to the slide of traction? Yeah, so the 35,000 plus customers, how many of these are actively transacting?
It's about a third.
About a third. Okay, and you mentioned thousands of transactions. Do you have an actual number there?
Not exactly, but it's probably over 10,000.
Okay. And in expansion plans?
Sure, so I think that's a great question, thank you. The South African market is particularly difficult considering the regulatory requirements, and it's taken us over, I've spent the last 8 months just doing due diligence with a number of different banks, etc., just to make sure that we can interact and transact in this market. My competition has said, we really think 85% of all transactions on the continent still happen in cash. So that we feel like now that we've kind of put in all this effort to get to where we are in South Africa, we want to nail that down and then look at expanding into our neighboring countries in the SADC region.
Can you pick up a little bit on, if you look at the amount of your value-added selling that you've done, it's very low per customer, and it just seems like that long tail that is in cash right now, that there's just not enough maybe profit zone there for a business. Maybe you can talk to that.
No, sure. Yeah, well, thank you. That's another great question. I think what is super important in the environment that we're working in is to build trust. So we've seen the way our customers transact is potentially they'll get a small portion of their income put into their Abela accounts, and they use that for their day-to-day services like airtime and electricity. We are still on a mission to get them to believe that the number that they see on their phone represents as much, if not more, value than what they see in their pocket as cash, and that's how we kind of hope to build that transaction volume.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Big round of applause. We can do a bigger round of applause than that. You can make your way to stage right over here. Thank you very much. Another big round of applause from our jury. We're going to switch gears for the moment and bring up some chairs to set up a nice little fireside chat where we can begin a discussion about unicorns. The specifics I'm going to leave to my good friend Stuart. But before we do, as those chairs and tables are coming up, I'd like to say that there is something quite amazing when you hear a startup pitch, is that you hear them for 3 minutes, you might hear them for 5 minutes, and dare I say you might even hear them for 10 minutes. But these 10 minutes, these 3 minutes, these 5 minutes represent sometimes 6 to 10 to 2 years of work. So it's a very condensed thing, and that's why we've arranged this lovely section where you can meet and greet, share a drink together, and actually get into the conversation. And I do feel the power of standing up on one of these blocks. I do feel like proper presenter mode now. How's our stage looking? Oh. Got a microphone 2 coming in. Jury microphone. I think I'm gonna call up our members of the discussion, and I'll let Stuart give you the details. But Zach George, you know him, you've seen him. Give a round for Zach George coming up, and Melvin Lubega as well. Come on, keep that applause going. These are big gentlemen with big CVs and big importance. Come on up. Catherine Young and Oshon Ikazobo. Did I pronounce that right? Yes, I did. All right, guys, why don't you take a seat?
Let me sit here, and then I can look at all 3 of you, yeah?
Well, I think very simply, Catherine is the one who's gonna take us on a journey over here. As we said, discussing why, in fact, there are only 5 unicorns in the rest of Africa, while 6 of them are concentrated in Nigeria. An amazing group of people that can discuss just that. So, Catherine, without any further ado, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I honestly am looking forward to this panel. I don't know when last I said that, so it's going to be fantastic. Never AfricArena. Remember, I had other events. So we really want to, you know why I say that? Sprinkle me with fairy dust and call me a unicorn. It's absolutely fascinating always, right? We always, the elusive unicorn and what it's about, and why it was so awesome to prepare for this panel is because we talk in the ecosystem about unicorns. I think it's the first time I was sitting next to one. But really, you know, I had to actually properly prepare for this panel and read a little, and it's fascinating. So we know Nigeria has 6, depending on who you ask and who's counting, whilst the rest of Africa has 5. South Africa, there's that debate. Let's not go into that. And this morning, actually, there's one new one coming up where they're raising $150 million now at a valuation over well over $1 billion. So it's buzzing, and the numbers are starting to track. So I want to just ask the panel first, if you want to just give a quick introduction of who you are. I know the 2 of you have been on. Have you been this morning? No. Yet? Okay, so Shane, maybe we start with you.
The mics aren't working.
If we can just get to Shane's mic on.
I don't think anyone's mic.
Fantastic. Whilst we do that, Zach, just a quick introduction for those. None of the mics are on?
All the mics are off, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Hi, Mom.
No. Okay, he's on now.
I think they heard that. Okay.
Cool. Whilst we get that sorted, I'm Catherine Young. I'm the managing partner at Grindstone Ventures, and Grindstone is an accelerator that we also have. And then the bread and butter business that we started with is Thinkroom, a consulting business in Africa with startups and corporates. Okay, are we on? Are we good?
Not yet, unfortunately.
Cool. So let me start. Just bear with me for those in the room. So we know the definition of a unicorn, right? It's really those privately held startups with a valuation over $1 billion. And this term first came to light 2013 when it was popularized and we started using it. And it's really about the mythical animal and really representing that potential wowness of getting to $1 billion valuation. We now know, of course, that the $1 billion valuation is starting to become something of the past, and we're looking at tenfold $1 billion valuation. That's the new vanilla. But be that as it may, couple of the unicorns. Now, here's an interesting thing. I'm not being facetious when I say it. Nobody's actually counting this in the same way. I see this morning on CB Insights, they say 903. Then there's, for the whole of the world, then there's some numbers that say 894. It doesn't matter. So we're between 10 and 13 for Africa, right? Are we now wired? Can we introduce?
No.
Not yet? Cool, cool. This gives me time with my intro. Okay, so let me give you a couple of the unicorn names for Africa specifically. As we know Jumia, and again, as I'm saying, always don't interpret this very literally, because depending on how you count, how you define. But we've got Jumia, we've got InterSwitch, we've got Flutterwave, Chippercash, and then of course Go1 that we've had come through. But really, there's a big difference between how the unicorns in Nigeria are coming through versus that on the rest of the continent. And it's actually even called the Nigerian way and the Kenyan way. And the Nigerian way is mostly where the startups are incorporated outside of Nigeria, but they still operate within the country and get funding. And on the other side, where we call it the Kenyan way, where the startups actually incorporate in the country and try and raise funding in the country. Now, we know Nigeria is low on the list in terms of the ease of doing business, the start of doing business. Their scores are low, but yet we're seeing the most unicorns coming out of there. Yes, of course. Big population, we know that. Yes, of course. We know mobile penetration's increasing. Internet usage is increasing. But we know all of this. Focus on me, don't focus on them. We know all of this. So Nigeria is an amazing market, and these unicorns are coming very, very, very fast. And we want to learn from the panel today between those two differences. Okay?
Just going to do handheld mics, it's easier.
Handheld is good. Okay, cool.
Catherine, if I can say congratulations on your recent raise.
I
saw that in the news the other
Thank
day.
you very much.
So looking forward to some unicorns coming out of your stable, as it were.
Yeah, no pressure.
And some
Thank you.
fertile grassy knolls which they'll be feeding off you.
Fantastic. So I'm glad that you wired. So for those who are not in the room, if you can just do a quick introduction.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone's awake post-lunch. It was a phenomenal lunch, so thank you to the organizers for that. My name is Marvin Lubega, co-founder of a company called Go1. We essentially help organizations unlock the positive potential in their people through a love for learning. And we do that through our platform, which is essentially a content aggregator. And so what we essentially built out is a Netflix for corporate training, where we bring together about 100,000 courses and resources into one platform and offer that in about 30 countries around the world.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome. Zach?
Yeah, just brief background. My name is Zach George. I'm a managing partner at Launch Africa Ventures, which is one of the top seed and pre-Series A VC funds on the continent, and also co-founder of Startup Bootcamp, one of the top accelerators on the continent.
Thank you, Zach. Shone?
Hi, I'm Shone Kazubo. I'm an entrepreneur for the last 15 years. I am part of Startup Bootcamp, founder in residence. I also sit on the board of Access Bank's fintech subsidiary.
Fantastic. Welcome. And we truly, for the audience, you have a formidable panel this afternoon. So I really want to try and I know we've got 22 minutes left, so I really want to try and get through all our questions with all three of you, because I would love your opinions and views on this. So Melvin, maybe I'll start with you. So from your perspective, why do you think Nigeria is so different from the rest of the continent in terms of producing the unicorns, right? 6 or 7 out of Nigeria versus only 5 for the rest of the continent. It's faster paced. Why, and do you think this will change?
So I think the rest of the continent will ultimately catch up. I don't think there's anything unique in Nigeria's makeup per se. I think what you find with fundraising rounds, what are the drivers of fundraising rounds? It's investors ultimately supply and demand putting a value on a business. And the reality is Nigeria has had some early successes, and therefore as an investor, you assume in a similar market you can get similar success. Because there are phenomenally large fintech companies also in the continent that will ultimately, when they raise their money, get their valuation. But one thing which I will say about Nigeria is, the entrepreneurial fervor of the average person, if there was ever a metric, would be the highest on the continent.
Yeah.
When I go to Nigeria, those guys and girls are grinding at a level which I haven't seen elsewhere on the continent. And that ultimately spurs the ecosystem. But in terms of the unicorns, I really think it's a function of exposure, and it's a matter of time.
So just a matter of time, in your opinion. Shone?
I have a different opinion on everything we're discussing. I look at the numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 11. When you say Jumia, I don't think Jumia is a Nigerian company. You say InterSwitch, yes, that's probably the one company that started in Nigeria and grew out of Nigeria. you look at Flutterwave, that's being GB started that in Nigeria. I know the history very well. Cheaper Cash is not a Nigerian company. It might have success in Nigeria, but it's not a Nigerian company. OPay is a Chinese company. Nothing wrong with that. So I think we need to realize the uniqueness of Nigeria. It's just a market that is ready for anyone. So DSTV has come to Nigeria, is doing well. MTN Nigeria success across Africa is from Nigeria. So I think we need to look at Nigeria's population and the market and other African companies. I'm here advocating for everyone to come to Nigeria. Come to Nigeria and we will grow your business. But don't think that you need to set up outside and come back in. You can come in and set up. Flutterwave and InterSwitch set up in Nigeria before they set up outside, not the other way around.
And just sort of to add to that point, yeah, thank you. That's a very, very valid point. So I mean, you can't ignore the fact that Nigeria has a population equal to the adult population in the US, right? Just sit in that for a second, right? And Nigeria will dwarf the US population in the next 20 years. And Nigeria is about 1/15 the geographical size of the US, right? So population, you can't ignore it. But population alone gets you nowhere. Ethiopia has a population that's half of Nigeria. Are they half as successful? No, right? The DRC, another fantastic example. Kinshasa, which is the capital of DRC, is the most populated city in the whole of Africa, more than Lagos, right? The DRC doesn't have a single unicorn and is not probably likely going to have a unicorn in the next couple of years. It may in the future. So population is one thing, but it's the penetration of smartphones and the internet and the cost of data and the super sort of Bermuda Triangle of these three is what made Lagos take off about, what, 6 years?
Yeah, I would say 7, 8 years ago,
7, 8
actually.
years
Yeah,
ago, right?
yeah.
So the first fintech in Nigeria that anyone knew of was Paga. Even before Flutterwave and Paystep, Paga was the first major, I mean, InterSwitch.
InterSwitch, I was going to say.
InterSwitch, well, yeah.
They were.
InterSwitch and then Paga, right? But InterSwitch was B2B, but like B2C was mostly Paga, right? So I think, and that's the one side, but to Melvin's point, if anyone here has been to Lagos, if you haven't, get on a plane to Lagos. It's difficult to get a visa there, that's a different story. But if you do go there, go to a coffee shop in Lagos. You won't find your fancy Cape Townians sipping an almonds, lactose-free latte and looking at the mountain. They're coding.
Yeah.
The average person at a coffee shop in Lagos is under 25 and on his or her computer coding for a startup. It's very similar to the culture in Silicon Valley 20 years ago. So developers give rise to designers. Designers give rise to digital marketers. Digital marketers give rise to ad agencies. And that's how an ecosystem is built, right? That's why Lagos is so active. And that is despite a country that 25 years ago in the 90s was known for things we shouldn't talk about here, scams and et cetera, et cetera. So if Nigeria can do it despite all that, then any one of us here in different countries in Africa can do it, right? That's.
So do you see any of those trends in any of the other countries across the continent, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, Uganda is, Melvin's actually originally from Uganda. Uganda,
Yeah.
very similar vibe. Kenya,
Yeah.
similar vibe. Tunisia, Morocco, Senegal, Egypt. Yeah, I mean, just the common thing, high populations, high penetration of internet, high penetration of smartphones, and low cost of data.
Yeah.
You get the magic middle of these four, and you have an economy that could be the next Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, Sean, and I like your comment, right? Because we all wonder about the origin of the company and whether it's unicorn or not. So I always am very afraid when I speak about unicorns, about where they're from. And Zach, I think you posted a very interesting thing the other day to say, this is where we think it is, but we never know for sure. But what I'm taking out of this question is that the other countries, there are other pockets, and it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. We saw the early successes, some early investments into Nigeria from the other, the bigger investors, and that just started building momentum. Zach, so let me start with you then, because it flows into the next question with, so we know there's an increase in smartphone penetration. We know there's a massive unbanked population, specifically in Nigeria, and that's part of it. Low cost of internet, so this all works beautifully with the population growth. Are there any, and for the whole panel, are there any other industries, sectors that you are starting to feel in the investment work that you do that's starting to come through? And what does that future look like?
Education, sorry.
Education. No, Marvin, go ahead.
No, I think to be fair, there may be a bit of a bias, but I think ultimately, and I mentioned it briefly earlier, is I think there's significant problems that we face as a continent, and I think financial service and access was one of them. But I think there are many others. I think if you look into education, if you think of logistics, if you think about clean tech, there's just there's so much one can do. But that being said, I can speak to the mega trends. But the one thing about Zach what he does is that he's at the coalface because you can't go from non-existing to being a unicorn. And so the reality is Zach probably has a few unicorns in his portfolio he wants to tell us about.
Yeah.
And I think I always bring it back to first principles. Let's try and solve some problems and not try and find products. There's this old saying, no one asks for a 12-inch drill. They ask for a 12-inch hole. So someone wants to hang up a picture. They're going to say, I want that drill bit. No, I want a hole to be drilled. Whether you use a drill bit or you use a Caterpillar tractor, it doesn't matter. I want a flipping hole. So let's start with the problems. Problems, transportation, logistics is a massive problem in Africa. In the big African cities. So in Lagos, if you want to get from point A to point B, even though it's 20 kilometers away, good luck. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. You know this better than you live in Lagos. It'll take you 3 hours if you're lucky, right? So transportation is a big problem. So therefore, anyone that builds a solution that solves that through ride sharing, through point-to-point transfers, will eventually succeed because you're solving a problem. Education is a problem. You can't set up enough universities in Lagos or anywhere in Africa to solve the huge demand for education. Healthcare is a problem. So you start with problems and find solutions to it, not the other way around. You have to always put your customer first and work backwards, right? So in that extent, my honest thing, education, mobility and logistics, healthcare, these three would be my top three outside of financial services.
Okay. Sean?
So, I agree with you guys, but I'm not sure I can attend class if I'm hungry. So I think agriculture is probably, and our population is so big, we're still importing so much food from everywhere. And yet we have 60% of the arable land in the world. And so if we can't figure out how to feed ourselves, then we can't move forward.
Yeah. So as a panel, you're saying, and for the startups in the room, take heart. So agriculture, health tech, ed tech, and I missed the one. Transportation, mobility, logistics. Okay, with fintech. As a matter of interest, any ed tech startups in the room? Fantastic. Take heart. Any health tech startups in the room? Awesome. Keep at it. Keep on keeping on. Okay, that helps greatly. And any idea about timing and which one will come first as the next fintech?
So I think Zach earlier, to quote him, he mentioned that I think there'll be, is it 30 in the next how many years?
I think by the end of 2022.
It's just Mike.
There, just so we can quote it later.
I think there'll be at least 30 unicorns in Africa by the end of next year. But I have a knack for predicting things, so I don't know.
Okay. But I think to your point around sectors, I think again it's a function of the pipeline, right? Because the question is, lots of companies are entering fintech. I think there's a bit of a battle, people drinking it out in mobility and logistics, and guys are raising some good valuations there. Agri, unfortunately, not many big players in the tech space. Obviously some bigger like Cargill and traditional players. I think, and the thing is, when you think about things like healthcare and water and that kind of stuff, it's almost like guys see it as a public good, and therefore you aren't seeing players like M Pharma getting significant valuations more recently. But it's an interesting one where I think if we're able to solve our own problems, I think we'll make lots of money, because the funny thing is there are many Africans in diaspora solving these problems in the US and getting crazy valuations. And so if they just sneak back home or start at home, as they say, probably see that come through fairly soon.
Absolutely agree. And I think agriculture isn't as sexy for us. And as an ecosystem, I found myself many times saying another fintech, another health tech, another ed tech. But the reality is we haven't solved the problems.
Yeah, the word agri-tech is so overused, but let's just break it down, right? It's just like, by the way, fintech, when people say fintech, what do you think of? Payments. You know that payments is technically 1/20th of fintech. there's asset management, there's peer-to-peer, there's insurtech, there's savings, there's unsecured lending. Fintech is such a broad term. Agri-tech is broken down, so you can start at the source, which is how do you get better farming outputs, and that's sensors, that's drones, that's robotic harvesting, all the way down to, a company like Twiga or Market Force is an agri-tech company. Let's not kid ourselves, because you're making the supply chain more efficient. So if you can get from farm to fork in a quicker way, that is an agri-tech company. So I'm sorry, agri-tech is not just improving harvests.
Yeah.
It's the entire supply chain and
Yeah.
making it more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely love that point.
Absolutely, it just gets clubbed with other sectors.
Yeah, absolutely love that point. Grace, you will be happy to hear that agri-tech comment, absolutely, because I know you're a great supporter. Okay, so we know the likes of SoftBank, Tiger Global, Sequoia, they're dipping their toes, starting to do it more and more. But much respect from me to the African investors. You're still carrying the big load, right? You still have to get in there first, take a lot of the risk, get these first funding rounds through. Do you see that this is changing? Do you see some of these big guys coming in and girls coming in and changing this? And what does that mean for you as the regional investors?
No, this is your area of expertise.
Yeah, listen, I'm sure VC funds in Africa, family offices, etc., are all very happy that Tiger Global and Sequoia and Target, we love them. But at the exact same time, who's getting deals ready for them? Funding, like Flutterwave, you were an early investor in Flutterwave, I was an early investor in Flutterwave. Flutterwave took years to build. None of these guys even knew what Flutterwave was. So I can tell you now, most of the guys at Sequoia didn't even know where Lagos was on the map when Flutterwave was starting, right? So I'm super happy that we have capital coming in at Series B, Series C, and Series D, but the hard work starts through the CC hubs, the iLabs, the startup boot camps, the
Grandstone Ventures.
Yeah,
Grandstone Ventures, exactly.
Ventures, et cetera, of the world, right? So.
Yeah.
To make these companies investment ready. And that includes things like your legals, your IP, your tax structures. I'm telling you, Sequoia is not investing in a company that doesn't have its cap table and legals and everything squeaky clean, the right seat, down to what is your CRM system?
Yeah.
What is your sales pipeline situation? It's pretty, there's a lot of work to do. Now, are these mega funds taking earlier stakes in Africa? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
It's to a large extent opportunistic. We recently saw, a big fund in the US, I won't name them, do a $5 million investment into an Egyptian fintech. People can figure out who it is, work it out. That was not even pre-revenue, but pre-product. Pre-product, just an idea with some results from SurveyMonkey. Obviously over-exaggerated, right? So it's good, but I really want to make sure that gets balanced against metrics. So I don't mind paying a high valuation, provided it matches your metrics. Metrics doesn't always have to be revenue. It could be customers, it could be transaction volume, it could be growth rates. But I'm always a bit cautious about these big names coming in super early.
Yeah.
Because I say, what are you bringing outside of your money?
Yeah.
But on that though, so obviously the problem is you speak to metrics, but often what I find is, again, supply and demand, right? Because if Zach starts a fund, which he does have, you want to put money with Zach because Zach is a winner in the space. And so whether you have a fund under your belt or not, someone will want to give you money because of who you are. And I think what we're seeing now is founders who have built businesses, who've been early employees, Dandela Mafia. There are many guys who've gone out from successful companies, and they're getting backed by saying their names. And I think that's good because hopefully they reinvest in the ecosystem, and that hopefully has a rising tide effect. But I also think in the same vein, the question which I always wonder, and maybe you raise a conversation, is do the early investors get commensurately rewarded for the supposed risk they take?
And that's the question, right?
I think from that perspective, I don't know.
Because that's the heavy lift. That's the heavy lifting, right?
I keep saying there is this concept of a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? What you want to see is more pots of gold way before the ultimate rainbow, right?
Yeah.
And that is a reason why, and there's a lot of liquidity in the secondary market, which is, everyone here knows this. Every major Series B round in Africa in the last 3 years has had secondaries.
Yeah.
starting from Twiga to Flutterwave to Kuda to Mcopa, to all these big companies have secondaries. And that liquidity is super important to get, or to convince funds to go in earlier.
Yeah.
Because you're not waiting till the 9th year of your fund when you're getting calls from your LP saying, where the fuck is my money? To be trying to sell off these assets. So, provided you have multiple pots of gold at reasonable returns, reasonable IRRs, then that creates a good ecosystem. So I can tell you now, you're not investing early, making a 3x in 2 years and buying a Ferrari. You're investing in more, I mean, maybe you are, but you're likely going to invest that money into the next generation of Banderas, the next generation of Goans, the next generation of Twigas, etc. And that's how Silicon Valley was built. Most of the GPs in top Silicon Valley funds are ex-founders or people that have been venture builders. Unfortunately, in Africa, the majority, and Mo will agree with me on this, the majority of GPs come from private equity. And they're essentially, with no offense to private equity, but the moment you swim across the river into venture capital, you can't just be a bean counter. You can't just count your returns on Excel, because you will fail. So in the Valley, most GPs are ex-founders who know what venture building is like. And I want to see more venture builders running funds in Africa.
Running funds, exactly. Oshone, do you have a view on that?
You know, everything about me is controversial.
That's why I'm asking you.
There are a lot of VCs here. How many are black VCs? Yeah, you don't count. We're together. Okay, good. No, you're the only one I know, officially. So now I think we need to start investing. Africans need to start investing in Africans. We need to stop waiting for the rest of the world to come and invest in us. It's our biggest problem. This whole thing of dividing us and saying, oh, unicorns, Nigeria, Egypt, Senegal. No, it's Africa. So we will do business across the continent, share knowledge, and I'm happy with the likes of GB and Shola from Paystack who have, like you said, started investing back. I know GB is putting 50K, 100 in different funds in with Future Africa.
And direct investments also.
Direct investments themselves. So I challenge the guys, founders who are starting. Ife, I challenge you. Larry, I challenge you. Once you make it, you don't have to be a unicorn. Return back and bring others up. The guys before us didn't do it. I challenge Dangote, I hope he sees this, to invest in Zach's fund, for example. So that's
I absolutely love that. So what I'm clearly hearing is the founders who are successful, who have exits, come back into the ecosystem. Us as funders in this ecosystem, let's work together as Africa, not as different countries, because we have that hang-up, right? We have that hang-up. We're still not doing regional investments and cross-investments. That's absolutely fantastic. In fact, you led right into the fourth question, so that means you read the script, so thank you very much. I want to open for Q&A. We've got really 3 amazing minds on stage, and we would love some questions. Please just shoot them. You're not going to have this opportunity again. Any questions? There's one at the back. Thank you. No? Okay. Are there any questions? There's one at the back. There are 2 on the left-hand side. Thank you. We start with the one at the back. This one.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Kathy. I work for the International Trade Center, so we support startups. And my question is regarding agri-tech. I'm happy that you mentioned it. So we support startups in different sectors. And what we notice is that agri-techs are struggling a lot. And my question is why? So as investors, I have the impression that you're telling us that it's hard for you to find good agri-techs, and it's for us as well hard often to find those agri-techs that are in the growth stage or doing well enough to be to attract the interest of investors. So in your opinion, why is it? Is it because of the infrastructure? Is it because the model is harder? What do you think is the issue?
I can give it a stab. So a couple of things. Most traditional agri-techs tend to need a lot of capex financing up front and working capital finance, right? So if you're looking to raise asset financing, VCs will rarely fund asset finance. They don't do asset financing. It's just the life cycles are too long. So most agri-techs end up going to the IFC, the World Bank, or the big DFIs to raise debt capital. And on the back of that, you then go and raise equity capital for your platform, right? So most agri-techs tend to have a very big need for asset financing, which doesn't mean it's not a good deal. It just means the life cycles are a lot longer. So you're now looking at a 7 to 10 year life cycle versus a 3 to 5 year life cycle, right? And that's where venture debt comes in. That's where revenue-based financing comes in. But most traditional VCs stay away from those models, right? It doesn't mean it's a bad, it's good. You just need to have blended finance, right? Generally speaking. It's the same problem with clean tech, right? So there are tons of renewable energy startups in Kenya, for example, in the solar tech space, in the wind space, in the biodiesel space. All of that needs asset financing, which can be costly. I mean, like, can you get, I don't know, a 5% annual loan like you get in the US or in Europe? No. The cost of debt in Africa is generally high. So if a VC puts money into a platform, but they know that there's 2 or 3 times more leverage sitting at a 20% cost of capital before them in the cap table, when are you going to get your money back? So that's historically why agri-tech has lagged. It's not because these are bad businesses, it's just you're very low on the cap table and you've got 20% cost of capital for all the lenders sitting above you.
Mm.
So people don't think about that, but it's such an important part. But it's changing. It's changing as we speak. But that's one of the reasons why.
Great, thanks for your question. Can we go to, there we go. You go, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my question is relating to the first point you mentioned about Nigeria being, having a crowd of hustlers, so as to speak, right? So Zach, obviously you receive about 100 emails, right? You mentioned of pitches. So I want to know, in terms of pipelines, how do you direct those people that you say no to? Because I think from my experience, it's a bit discouraging to apply to any venture capital, whatever, having seen someone succeed on the news, only to find out, hey, you're too early or do this and that. But the discussion really ends there, and most of the time then you become discouraged, especially if you don't have the support or at least the encouragement that you can get, which is pretty rare. I'm actually a rare case where we do have people in our ecosystem that encourage us to keep going no matter what the obstacles may be. So don't you think that trickles down actually and affects the entire ecosystem as a whole?
You can talk about your experience, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so I think the challenge is, as an entrepreneur, you'll get many no's. I mean, in our early days, I spoke to it briefly. I mean, you speak to 100 people to get 2 checks. As you get more mature, you get 100 offers to only fill a small round, and you oversubscribe by quite a big amount. I think it's more incumbent on not necessarily applying to VCs as a way of getting feedback. You know, there's the old axiom, if you want investment, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for investment. And I think that may not necessarily hold if you're applying through a particular process. And so for me, my outside-in perspective would be try to think through other ways in which you can get feedback, because the reality is the same way, you know, in human nature, you're meant to have one wife or one husband. I mean, not all investors are right for you, and that's okay. Rather dodge the bullet than say, yes, I want the money from that particular person. I think a point I mentioned earlier to one of the entrepreneurs in the audience was the importance of doing DD on your investors. Because if you're able to come to Zach and say, Zach, you spoke about this particular industry at this event, and we're in this space and relate to this company in that way that you're already invested in. I'm telling you, Zach will look at you and say, let's have a conversation. You find that entrepreneurs don't do enough to actually understand their target in engaging them for capital.
Shoni, do you have any points on that? Yeah? Fantastic. I'm going to go to the gentleman at the back, and then we'll come to you. We've got three minutes to go. So second last question from the back.
Hi, my name is Tirhal. I'm the founder of Beam, cloud communications platform. My question is around early stage investing and kind of the risk reward that you mentioned. We see like, I personally and as a company also, we've invested in early stage companies that we had synergies with. And one of the things that we see is that a lot of valuations are just like skyrocketing at early stage when it's, you know, pre-revenue, better product, new users, and, you know, the valuations they're asking for are like higher than VC kind of valuation. Like, is that going to affect, you know, early stage investors, African early stage investors from ST? Because, you know, Silicon Valley investors are happy to pay for that valuation in a very early stage. It might be a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we get this question a lot. Like, honestly, I just say, my answer to that is wear your Bose headphone speakers, drown out the noise.
Yeah.
Drown out the noise. I mean, like, we get pitched all the time from founders. By the way, in my talk I mentioned arrogance versus assertiveness. We have founders coming to us and say, hey, we're raising $1 million at a valuation of 20, and we're building our product. I'm like, why is your valuation 20? Oh, because we got money from Target, or we got money from Andre. I'm like, your value proposition is someone else investing in you. You haven't even talked about what you do. So just drown out the noise. Like, and this is advice to founders, take it or leave it, right? Like, try to get smart money. Do not take money from anyone, please. I know it's super tempting. Often, sometimes you can get unintelligent capital from overseas because a friend went to YC, a friend went to Harvard, or a friend was in the same dorm as someone. Please be careful of what money you take, please. Because you take in money that adds no value, you're stuck, there's no strategic benefit. Rather raise less money at a valuation that's higher, lower, from a strategic investor that can help you, than raise a lot of money at a very high valuation from someone that can give you no help.
Yeah.
This is especially true pre-Series A.
Yeah.
Post-Series A, Series B, it's all about capital. But pre-Series A, guys, you need strategic capital. You need people that open doors for you, to banks, to insurers, to telcos, to retailers, that can help you with hiring. Hiring is, in my opinion, much more important than capital. Right? Where do you get good talent to scale into other markets? Like, if we can help someone with expanding into another market and help them with on-the-ground operations, that money is so much more important than just capital. So do not be a whore, sorry to use that word, to dumb capital. And it's going to be tweeted now.
Yeah,
Do not be a whore to dumb capital.
absolutely right. I love that. Did we tweet that? Last question here. Thank you.
Hi guys.
We're out of time, so if I can ask that we keep it brief. Thanks.
Sure. Coming back to the comments you made earlier around investment across different geographies, the likes of Landre, Ife, like Shoni points out, you know, have got massive scale in terms of the trajectory going forward because they're ahead of the curve. Now, when something comes about that will disrupt the continent, hypothetically Starlink, which now gives everybody access to the internet, which means everybody has access all of a sudden to the opportunity for education. All of a sudden it changes the playing field, right? What does that mean in terms of long-term investment? Where do you, in your opinion, and I suppose Zach, this is probably directed to you more than anybody else, where in your opinion would you suggest that family offices or even enterprises and corporates invest from a geographic point of view for the long-term benefit if the playing fields were even tomorrow, hypothetically?
From a geographic perspective. I mean, one could argue that the four horsemen of Africa, which is Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and Egypt, are possibly fairly valued, if not maybe slightly oversaturated with capital. So as someone who likes to look at future trends, I mean, people didn't know anything about Nigeria. If you told your folks that you were investing in a Nigerian payments company 6 years ago, God help you. This is what happened to me with Flutterwave. I told my dad I'm going to be backing a privately owned payments company in Nigeria. He almost killed me. The company was Flutterwave, and after I sold my shares, he's like, "Oh, son, that's really good." But the point is, where Nigeria was 6 years ago is where countries like the DRC and Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire and Morocco and Tunisia and Uganda are, right? So smart family offices should see, I don't know, look 3 or 4 years in advance. Again, what I said earlier, population, cost of data, smartphone penetration, mobile, right? Look at geographies that make sense. And our fund is particularly bullish on North Africa sans Egypt, which is mostly Morocco and Tunisia, French West Africa, which is Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire for now. But you'd be amazed, countries like Togo and Benin and Gabon and Cameroon that have relatively democratized access to content. And like we discussed earlier, the population growth is ridiculous in these countries. And all these, all the people in these countries need safe water, clean water, safe food, transportation, education, healthcare. So look, family offices should be looking into what I would call second
economies. Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to cut it here. Please make sure to catch them after. I know you need to. We have to wrap, unfortunately. Sorry. Make sure to catch them after. Thank you. Give them a big round of applause. Can we have the last one? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Apologies for.
All right. Thank you very much for this powerful platform. And my name is Cindy again from the Circle of Global Businesswomen funded by the Embassy of France in South Africa. I want to make a follow-up question on what my dearest sister has asked from the International Trade Center. Agriculture is the key pillar of any economy globally. And I think it's very important for us as we discuss and engage to find an instrument so that we'll be able to actually look at, funding these, agri programs within the VC capitals. But for me, it's very important because, money is not in the produce. Money is in the value chain. This is agriculture. We took lunch, we ate food, and that food is coming from agriculture. And I think this is my personal plea, so that we can look at a funding instrument that we can even develop so that we can see the agripreneurs coming up in the sector as well. Thank you.
Shone?
She just closed the whole thing.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, keep that applause going. Thank our panel, thank our moderator, and everybody present. We're going to have a quick scene change. Excuse me, bud. All right, brilliant. How's everybody doing out there? You having a good time? I see some thumbs up. I see some smiles. That's good news. Fantastic. I got my buddy Stuart coming up to join me.
Yes, indeed.
Catherine said it best. The startups are here. They're ready to mingle. They're ready to chat. Even the speakers themselves are in the area. Don't hesitate to slide up next to them, grab them by the arm, and keep that conversation going. That's literally why we're here today, and that's why we've organized this exchange of ideas and motion between us. Now, these types of motions come in all shapes and sizes. We have the conference itself. We had the boot camp a few days before. We had the unconference in and around that. We also have other punctual events going on, such as the Innovation Night tonight, which is going to appear the info just behind me when they're ready. But the Innovation Night tonight is a way that we can get together, and there it is, and meet and greet and continue these ongoing conversations. Because when I work with startups, and it was echoed in the talk that you just heard today, and it's been echoed all throughout the day, when I work with startups, it's so important that they hear that, in fact, it's not just one meeting that you're going to sit down, you're going to pitch for 15 minutes, and the person's going to be like, okay, here's the check. How much was it? It's actually an ongoing conversation that takes quite a long time. There's a lot of exchange of information, and then that relationship lasts for a long time, hopefully speaking, obviously. But these are not punctual events. These are not things that happen in a flash and pan. These are not isolated events, but rather, hopefully, the cultivation of a much ongoing, much longer dialogue. All right. What do we got going up next?
I also want to say Innovation Night is the reason why tomorrow lots of people are wearing dark glasses.
And there is a dress code. It's smart casual, so at least I'm set.
But to start it's smart casual. We'll see what happens after that. So we do hope we see you at Innovation Night. That's going to be lots of fun. Catherine Young is such a phenomenal facilitator and moderator. Great the way she keeps that conversation going. But rather than having another moderator up on stage over here, we thought we'd shake things up just a little bit. So this is not a fireside chat. It's something called In the Spotlight. You know that scene in 8 Mile where they do the rap battle?
It's my favorite movie.
There we go. We're going to do something similar, but without the rap and without the battle. It's no, what it is, we're going to get our 4 panelists up on stage, and we're going to give each of them an opportunity to talk to you for about 8 minutes. So it's going to be without a moderator. You're each going to get your opportunity to discuss the topic at hand, and then we'll throw it to questions, and obviously you can ask the question of the specific person. What we're talking about is a winning strategy for investing in Africa. And why this is so interesting is because our 4 panelists, as it were, are from 4 very different backgrounds. Okay, we've got someone from the East, someone from Japan, someone from South Africa, someone from Europe, who are going to talk to you. And so they are going to come here with a very, very different perspective. We are going to have all of them on stage at the same time. So as they make their way to the stage, please give them a big round of applause. We start with Ben Morel to the stage. Sasha Hayder to the stage, please. Kohai Muto to the stage. And finally, the local girl herself, Tandukazi Nkuma Moyo to the stage, please.
Big round of applause.
Yes. So Ben, we will start with you, sir. You have 8 minutes. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Is the mic working? Now, yes? Okay, perfect. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here with you. I'm going to talk about that and maybe tell you a bit more about my personal, link to Africa, what I do on a day-to-day basis, and why I'm interested in winning that battle with these guys around who's going to be the best investor in Africa. I'm one of the founders of Briga. Briga is a founders fund created by entrepreneurs 6 years ago with this idea of building the VC we would have loved to have on the other side of the table when we were entrepreneurs ourselves. So we created Briga with 2 major value propositions that have been, touched upon a bit earlier. One, everyone in our investment team is a founder. So, been an entrepreneur for more than 12 years myself, and all together we built a bunch of companies. One of them exit for $8 billion, so, fairly okay track record. And then on the back of that, we said, hey, let's start by the beginning, right? So let's start raising our first seed fund in Europe and then grow, because the mission we set for ourselves is being able to back innovative founders along every step of their journey to maximize their impact on the world. So if you cut that down into pieces, you're now, okay, innovative founders, okay, digital is one, but tomorrow clean tech, med tech, there's a bunch of, innovations coming up. Then along the stage, along every step of their journey is literally, us doing sort of very early stage stuff as of now and growing. So in 6 years, we went from pretty much 0 when we were raising the first fund, which was, a pretty tough challenge, I can say, because, we were first-time team, first-time fund, and first-time investors, right? So probably the worst spot to be on when you want to raise money. And then ultimately, grow that and, lately close our 4th fund already and, passing the bar of €500 million under management. So look, kind of fairly successful to that, angle. But then what's next? And what's next is, maximizing impact on the world. So looking, at the world from Europe, we're like, oh, where should we go now? What's the next step? What can we apply that we've learned here to other geos and other ecosystems, right? And, we could have been looking at Asia, Latin America, the US, but given the link, we have historically with Africa and given the complexity of it, right? We thought, hey, maybe what we've learned in Europe, there's something that we can apply here. Not everything, obviously, but some things. So to us, the winning strategies are A, Africa's big, as much as Europe. When I say Europe, it's a lie, right? From the UK all the way down to Ukraine, you can imagine that these countries are very different and that cultures are different. Same applies to Africa. So you have to be global. So look at the continent. as a whole, but drill down into the core ecosystems. And we've talked about these ones, you know, Zach was saying the four horses, internally we call them the diamond, right? So the sort of Cairo, you know, Lagos, Nairobi, and Cape Town. And obviously Western Africa, and that's the French angle. So being local, first of all. Second of all, our key winning value proposition here when we're going to launch, you know, investing in Africa in the coming months is obviously starting with the base, because, you know, there's no single ecosystem in the world that actually started investing at Series B. It doesn't exist, right? If you want to have the good stories at Series B level, you need to go, you know, right down at the bottom, and that's what we did in Europe, and that's what we're going to apply here, doing very early stage, super business angel tickets to, you know, people who are launching these businesses and, you know, follow the path and surf the wave until you get to that level where it's not, you know, 10 Series B a year, but like, you know, 100 of them. And then you can build this sort of growth fund. And then last but not least, you know, we bring resources to our companies, and, you know, resources are money, obviously, as a fund. That's what you do. You sign checks and you invest, but sharing our experience as well as founders. And so the team here for Briga in Africa will be composed of African founders, you know, so sharing the scars and the war stories, what you learned that was a success or not, but, you know, not to repeat the same failures and be able to grow these companies in the future. So I really think, you know, time is now when you look at the sort of growth of the investment world in Africa these days, you know, going from a few hundred millions to passing the bar of 4 billion, that's literally the size of Spain, right? And Spain is concentrating over 3 different ecosystems, so why not doing it at the scale of a continent with this very local presence, sharing, you know, our expertise and helping this bridge for companies that want to expand and grow internationally, because that's our playbook. You know, that's what we do in Europe all the time. I mean, it's 2 playbooks basically. Either you grow European, and you have to open a country in Germany, and you have to open a country in England and recruit local people. So that's the Pan-African play, or build an amazing piece of tech that goes scale somewhere else. And obviously, we're ready for it. So guys, to all the African founders out there, wait for us, 2022. We'll be winning this battle with you guys.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, hi everyone. So I wasn't told this was going to be a battle, so my conversation might be a little bit different. But actually, you know, I actually have an issue with the way this was titled and me speaking at it, because it's winning strategies for investing in Africa, and I just have to put my hand up and say we haven't won anything yet. But I think that what I really wanted to use this opportunity to discuss was perhaps how we as the investor ecosystem can maybe support our founders through value creation and getting to the next stage. So I think obviously it's super exciting to celebrate the wins, and whether that's counting the numbers of unicorns we've seen, or whether that's considering, you know, the amount of external capital that's coming to the continent now. I think I read somewhere that 7 out of 10 investors who invested more than 100K this year were headquartered outside of Africa, right? And those are exciting, and we should, you know, celebrate those wins, but there's still a lot more work, I think, that needs to be done. And it's a very large and probably quite a complex problem to solve, but I think in my mind, I always come back to 3 things. And that's usually like where my value creation conversation leads me. But I think it's important for me to share a little bit of context on myself first. So my name's Sasha, I'm a principal who leads Sub-Saharan Africa for Global Ventures, which is a firm that was really founded 3 years ago with the intention of backing founders who are solving pretty important problems across emerging markets, right? And that's really in the DNA of who we are, which is we believe a founder can solve a big problem in Lagos and then take that solution to Cairo and then to Karachi and beyond, right? And that's very much in the DNA of who we are and what we do. So for me, like back to the value creation conversation, I think that there are sort of 3 main verticals on which I focus this conversation, which is 1, talent, 2, capital formation, and then 3, sort of cross-border expansion, and how we as an ecosystem can help to uplift founders in the ecosystem while they do that. I know I'll be focusing on the micro, but I think that Ben did a great job of the macro. And maybe we want to spend a little bit more time on this. So with talent, right? So we've been super privileged to have been able to speak to loads of founders, funders, and other tech ecosystem players. And I think that the key thing that comes across is talent. Let's start there, right? So that's not an Africa problem. That's not an emerging markets problem. That's a global problem. Tech talent is like a global problem, and I beg you to find me 1 founder in the world who doesn't say that that's an issue for them, right? I think specific to Sub-Saharan Africa, what we've seen is that there's a dearth of strategic talent. So people mention that it's much easier to find operational talent compared to strategic. And like strategic big thinkers are difficult to find, and obviously technical talent, and not just the pipe of technical talent, but also basically like the attrition and what it takes to retain stuff like that. And then somehow this all feeds into this like Africa myth around talent that it's cheaper to build here, which when you think about basic supply and demand, it's clearly not the case, because founders here have to fight to keep talent on board. So I mean, I think that from our perspective, there are some structural issues there. Like we probably aren't going to, as investors, be able to solve the general pipe coming in, and that will take investment into education and a bunch of other things as well. But I think that as investors, we can try to look more holistically at talent well-being at our portfolio companies. And I have a few ideas for that, and I also encourage people to share theirs with me after this conversation. But usually I like to think of it across three tranches. One is obviously general founder well-being and coaching founders. A lot of the founders in our markets are doing things that haven't been done before. And I think the way in which we most often help them is to pick up the phone when they call and support them. And I would say most people I've interacted with in this ecosystem share that ethos. But I mean more structured approaches to coaching them as their companies grow and they get ready for the next stage of growth. I think there's a lot of space for us to do work there. I think secondly, compensation. We live in a market where founders, and financial well-being is really important, where founders know that they're not going to have access to loads of capital, and so often they underpay themselves very early in their journey. And I think it's on us as investors and as the controllers and the capital allocators to sort of support them to pay themselves more. But on top of that, not just for them, but for their sort of second-tier team, one of the conversations that's come up a lot for us recently has been around basically giving founders or giving sort of the team the ability to cash out a little bit of equity at the Series B. And I think that as investors, we've always been really averse to that idea, but most second-tier management, in fact, like in startups here, believe that ESOP or this like equity doesn't really materialize into anything, and so then they don't care about leaving the company before their shares have vested or before their cliff, because they think this is never really going to turn into anything. And I think that what we've seen can be super powerful is sort of giving them the opportunity to cash out just a little bit, and we're yet to see if it's going to work, but from B to C, whether or not that does stuff for attrition and retention. And then the third one, as investors, we see a lot, we have a lot of oversight over the ecosystem, and I think that we can foster community. So one of the most powerful things that we've been able to do with our portfolio companies is really get them together and get them to share experiences and get them to sort of communicate with each other. So once a month we have these structured founder series where they share either things they've learned, things they've done well, things that went wrong. And it's really crazy to see how people who are in the weeds with them are really able to share advice and help each other in a way that we as investors never can. So that's generally how I think we could do better at talent. Capital formation. This is one I'm extremely passionate about, but I think the conversation that we frequently have is that, oh, valuations are getting higher. But I think that what we don't realize is we are pushing founders into a hole where we're saying the only kind of capital you have access to is equity, and if you want to grow your business, you have to raise larger and larger rounds, and for them, it just becomes a factor of dilution. For them, it's just how diluted am I going to get at the next round? How much of my business am I going to control? And that's where you end up with these valuations. On the backside of that, what other capital alternatives have we offered them, right? I think the 220 model and emerging markets funds is a bigger conversation for another time, but I really encourage us as investors to try to extend and think a bit better about how we can provide different sources of capital. For example, in our markets, it's very difficult for founders who have a hardware component or an infrastructure component to their business to raise money. And that's something that's just not going to go away. I think one of the most important things that I've learned, I guess, is that you can't leapfrog a hospital, and where there's a general lack of provision of infrastructure, founders will be forced to build those things, and we have to help them to find the right type of non-diluting funding to solve that problem. So I think that this time, one of the interesting things I learned on this trip was the Untapped guys are offering these revenue share models where they're doing asset financing. But on that vein, we need to think of what's going to be the pipe of Africa, what's going to be the clear co of Africa, how are we building this for our founders? Secondly, venture debt. Everyone knows that the venture debt that's currently available to this market is criminally high interest rates. And I understand that, but I think it's on us once again as the investor community to try and help unlock other types of capital, and definitely a conversation that we need to continue having into the future. And the final one, which I think is the one that we spent the most time thinking about, is cross-border expansion and really helping founders to scale to different geographies. I think it's something that's been historically pretty difficult because of, a lack of an understanding of local context when founders are approaching new markets, a lack of sort of supporting infrastructure that really runs Pan-African, and then also just a lack of what's available in the market to acquire. And I think sort of along all of those veins, I think that we have a duty to try and sort of bring that together and foster collaboration once again within our portfolio companies. So I haven't spoken to one West African founder in the last 6 months who hasn't contemplated or isn't seriously thinking about going to Egypt, right? It's so high on people's priorities to figure out how to scale from one large market to the next large market. And I think as investors, we are the people who can facilitate those conversations. So specifically, one of our portfolio companies, Paymob, has been like invaluable to the rest of our portfolio company in terms of opening doors and really giving the lay of the land in Egypt as they tried to expand from Nigeria to Cairo. And then I think on the other side of that, we've also tried to support our portfolio companies by trying to highlight what acquisition opportunities exist within our markets. So, for example, Helium Health, and this is like my personal passion, basically just acquired a business in the Middle East, which is the first time that's ever happened. And while we definitely can't take credit for that, we learned a lot on the way. And I think that that's like definitely what we want to see going forward. So in summary, while I can say we haven't won, I think that important things to think about is like how are we helping our founders retain talent? How are we helping them expand to new markets? And how are we offering them different forms of capital to support their business?
Great. Can you hear me all right? All right, my name is Kohei. All right. Yeah, I'm the CEO of Double Feather Partners. I'm coming from Japan, and then also we have a team in Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Germany, and we are quite global, and we have about 20 staff. We are relatively new companies, so I would like to make a quick introduction. I also want you to walk you through where we stand as a Japan in an African ecosystem, and also I want to make an introduction of some of the case study of Japanese investments in Africa, and also I also want to introduce some of the recent project that we have done or we are going to, we are working on right now together with the JICA. JICA is the Japanese International Cooperation Agency of Japanese sovereign wealth institutions. And also I also want to introduce some of our investment strategy in African markets. So where we stand, when you look at the global investment inflows in African markets, in 2014 to 2019, comprised of the venture capital and private equity investments, 43% coming from US, 23% coming from Europe, 20% coming from Africa region itself, and only 8% coming from Asia. And then very, very short amounts coming from Japan side when it comes to private equity, the venture capital investment area. It's, I think, relatively kind of natural things to think because Japan has, I think, one of the weakest in historical relationship, cultural relationship with Africa. On the other hand, Japan was very strongly attached to Asian markets last 20 to 30 years. And then we also kind of in touch with the Chinese economical growth, Korea's economical growth. We closely saw that huge economical growth in Southeast Asia, including India. And then I think that last few years, despite of these numbers, we see the strong demand and strong interest coming over the Japanese corporates coming into African markets. And I would like to explain why Japanese markets, Japanese corporates especially, are interested in coming to African markets. I lay out the 6 basic case studies through the recent transactions. SoftBank, not only the Airtel Africa's pre-IPO rounds, but they also invest into one of the AirTech companies, and also some holdings, SBI invest into other finance, BPESA, and Yamaha invest into Max, based in Nigeria. Toyota Tsusho, this is the Toyota the trading arm, invest into Zipline, and they become unicorn of the African markets. And also Daikin, this is a technology manufacturing companies based in Japan, and Yamaha Marubeni invest into solar energy industries, and also Mitsubishi Corporation invest into B-Box. Maybe you can take a look through this investment pipeline, also investment track record. Japanese corporates are strongly capable and also have a strong advantage in manufacturing, also technical aspects, and also technology industries and mobile telecom industry as well. And they have closely invested into Asian markets, and then by leveraging that, those expertise and then also experiences, they would like to leverage that into the African markets. And they're coming in not only the capital, as you know that Japan's facing historical low interest rates right now, and then they're making investments with a cheap capital available in developed market or Japan, and making a more aggressively coming into alternative investments, especially in emerging markets. But not only the capital, but they're also investing into, together with the technical aspects, human resources, collaborations of local young entrepreneurs. And Japan is facing also a strong, difficult problem right now, in the sense that we are facing one of the fastest aging populations, and also the population is shrinking. On the other hand, in Africa, Africa is facing phenomenal economical growth, and on the back of the macro also and population growth. So the Japan wants to also contribute and then also take the also part of the role in African ecosystem by leveraging some of the lessons they learned through the last 5 decades or 4 decades of the economical growth that we face in Japan and in Asia. And I would like to skip this, but I would like to mention that in order to back up those Japanese investors, Japanese government also announced a $20 billion investment commitments to African markets in 2019 at the TICAD conference. And then there is a strong momentum out of the Japanese government, also Japanese corporates investing into Africa. And then as a part of this, in order to capture this type of momentum, we also collaborating with the JICA. We are mandated by the JICA to run the Ninja Acceleration Program based in Kenya. And we are also planning to expand it into further southern part of Africa, also northern part of the African regions. And some of the ecosystem gap we found, I think that some of the people already cover, but human resources, technical aspects, access to financial markets, especially global markets, is essential. And we would like to fulfill the gap throughout this acceleration program. And we just finished the first cohort based in Kenya, and we just launched the second cohort. But some of the cohort from East Africa, namely SocoWatch, Amitrack, Koala, Zana, Cinch, SocoWatch just closed the Series B round, $30 million throughout this acceleration program. And then also some of the other companies are also raising capital, accessing, also collaborating with the Japanese, also global corporates. We provide mentorship, networking, instruction, demo day. We also take the African startups to global roadshow. We are going to Silicon Valley early next year in January and February, taking 15 companies from Africa to connect the global ecosystem players and also in Asia side. And then lastly, I would like to also make an introduction of our new venture capital funds. We invested up to around 10 companies by the end of this year. We still have 2 to 3 slots, but from next year, we're going to be launching a new venture capital impact funds, 50 million Pan-Africa, and seed round, we're going to be investing in 50 to 60 venture capital investments. And those are 6 sectors that we're going to be investing into: finance, insurance, agriculture, logistics, energies, healthcare, and mobilities. And we believe that those 6 key sectors, most of the Japanese corporates are very, very strong and then looking for strategic collaborations from the technical perspective, strategic collaborations, and also providing human resources. So we would like to collaborate and also bring that unique collaborations into African ecosystem from Asia aspects through the collaboration with global players, not only the African players, but also European and American investors together to collaborate and strive the innovations taking place in Africa. Thank you so much, and I truly appreciate your listening.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So from our side, the Technology Innovation Agency, we are a government funding agency, and I feel like Kelowna on the stage because I hear people talking post-seed, Series A, Series B, and we are an investor with the highest risk in the land. I mean, we've got similar entities around Africa, but the Technology Innovation Agency is the most experienced in terms of the number of years that we've been operating. So we were basically set up to be a de-risking investor. We come in where no investor wants to come in terms of VCs, private equity, pension funds, you name them all, or development finance institutions. So we are meant to create value out of South Africa's basic intellectual property that would be sitting in the asset classes like universities or science councils or even startups. So what we did as government at that time, and we looked at what is it that we have as resources within South Africa or Africa, and we didn't want to create ventures or businesses that have short legs, where they walk a long mile, there's an exit, and that's the end of the story. So we really wanted to build new industries. So our main strategy as an agency is to build new industries, is to build markets, is to optimize markets for Africa on its own, to be able to realize value from its own resources and not to export that kind of value in terms of basic intellectual property itself. So what we then did, if you look at Africa on its own, we all know that it is one of the continents that has the largest natural deposits. Secondly, we're talking about fluorspar. When you're talking about lithium-ion batteries, you're talking the work that Tesla does. We have the largest deposits in terms of the resources of the raw material itself. Then secondly, if you look at Africa as itself, and I think one thing I really want to share with, and I really want to admonish international investors to Africa, is to understand Africa in its own, what it needs, what it can do, and the benefit that is it can get from international investors. So what we then did, we looked at the resources that we had from a natural resources perspective. We looked at in terms of the skills and the expertise, and we said, how do we translate that into businesses? Now, we knew that we would not be able to do ourselves as the agency on our own. If you look at in the past 8 years since we're set up, we've invested about 4 billion rands into early stage ventures that could be an investment sitting within a university or a science council, which would then be spun out into a company. Because that's where, if you look at the biggest, if you go to the pharmaceutical sector, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, they were spun out. Those active pharmaceutical ingredients were spun out from university and science councils. And for us, the biggest strategy for Africa is to build those kind of long-term investments and not necessarily to just quit and go to the next one. So what we then did is to say, how do we create value out of the investments that Africa has been making towards R&D, because we know we've got resources that we need to beneficiate. So we came in as an investor that would then translate the proof of principle from your researchers at universities, at science councils, but also from some startups. How do we convert that into investable businesses for VCs and institutional investors and other investors to come on board? So what we are then looking at now in terms of strategies of working with other investors and actually investment on its own through the entire value chain of the type of business that we fund is syndicating investments. How do we bring in blended finance models where we can share our royalty or, let's say, grant kind of funding with some equity? So what we do is, normally when we get into a transaction, we try to bring in other investors that would then to follow on fund. So I think the one important thing is being able to syndicate investments. The other one is blended financing. The other one is, in terms of one of the biggest strategies or the mindsets that one should have when they're looking at Africa, is to have high risk tolerance. Now, there's the two inseparable twins in investments: high risk and high profits. Now, there's a notion that, ventures that are high risk, they normally have, high profits because the nature of the outcomes that you would get from that. So I think that the tolerance in terms of the stuff that we look at should be quite high. And I look at the portfolios of the colleagues in front here that are presenting their stuff, and it's a bit sad that, if you look at our portfolio, it's fairly high-tech stuff. We're talking biotech, we're talking APIs, we're talking drugs, we're talking therapy, we're talking advanced manufacturing. And what I've realized from a lot of the investors coming into Africa, they're looking more at unicorns, the quick stuff. And for me, to be honest with you, that does not benefit Africa too much, because where Africa has a headache and needs to build itself is in the high-tech stuff where we're creating value from our resources as South Africa. Then that way we're creating value out of our own intellectual property. So I think what we're struggling with at the moment is that we've got few, and if you look at our venture capital space within Africa, we've had, traditional VCs that, were defining themselves as VCs, but actually they were looking at post-revenue companies, right? They were not looking at pre-revenue, early stage, seed, pre-seed. But we're seeing now an advent of other VCs that are really getting into the space because they understand value creation of intellectual property within Africa as it all. What we've then done is to create a vehicle as the Technology Innovation Agency called the Industry Matching Fund, where we're trying to bring in these VC guys and other international partners to come in and play in the risk space where South Africa needs a lot of support and more than aid. So we bring them in and saying, we know your money is from capital markets, it's from pension funds, you need to pay it back. How do we then take our government money or money that has been seeded by government as the Technology Innovation Agency and blend it with your money so that it can be a bit accessible and cheaper for for these entrepreneurs or researchers sitting in these universities. And for me, if international investors can have that mindset and appetite to come in and build Africa from its natural resource base, then we will be good. And understanding that one of the key strategies to support and build Africa is to be able to appreciate as investors benefit sharing. Whereby if you're funding me, I've got this IP, whether it's a patent or know-how, trade secret, I don't really care. Whether it's registered or not, I don't really care. But how do I benefit, not just from a financial perspective, but from building the industry itself? I can see your hand. It's always a pity to be the last one. So it's benefiting. And again, the key thing and the key ingredient for us as the agency is intellectual property, the uniqueness to be able to be competitive globally. So I think I'll leave it for there to say within our own mandate as the agency, we're looking to partner with investors who are interested in creating value out of South Africa's or Africa's intellectual property more than exit.
Thank you, Tandakazi. We do have a little bit of time. Firstly, thank you very much for standing through that whole thing. It was very 8 Mile. We're going to give you some chairs over here so you can have a seat during the Q&A. Guys, hopefully some great insights over there, and I think you'll draw your own conclusions about a winning strategy for investing here in Africa. But we do have this esteemed panel available to us for about 12 or 15 minutes. And now is the time to ask all of those questions you all want to ask. So the mic is available somewhere around. We've got our first gentleman over here.
Quick one for Tia. What is Tia doing in addressing the imbalances in the ecosystem in South Africa, particularly geographic imbalance? What is it specifically that they do? Thanks.
Sure.
Go for it, you can.
Oh, I thought, okay, sorry, I thought there was going to be a round of questions and then.
No, we'll take one
so, can I stand? Geographic imbalances. So what you'll see, we've got a blend of investment instruments, and I'm glad you're asking that question because it again fits into investment strategies that you cannot use a single instrument or a fund to address certain or address different geographic needs or capabilities or whatever you call it. Because if, for instance, we've got the one fund we have is a seed fund where we support you to have proof of concept, a functional prototype. So you have a design, you've got the idea in your hand, and there we work with incubators around the country. They're implementing partners, so they offer a suite of support because that's one of the key things within South Africa. I mean, Africa itself, money alone does not do the job. If you dump money and you walk away as an investor, that's a very ignorant thing to do. You need to provide a suite of support, the nice financial support. So what we've done as the agency, even in those underserved areas or different geographic areas where we know the type of readiness to build business is quite different, we've partnered with incubators. So what we do is we give you the money through the incubator, and there's the incubator accelerator to help you to build your business. So they deal with the business aspect and the tech aspect, so the money goes with that support. What we've done as well within, so we've got another instrument called the Technology Development Development Fund. Now, that's a very complex fund. We really fund complex stuff there where we really require you to have a lot, IP and stuff. And we know we cannot deploy that type of fund, for instance, in Tsendane, where I come from, in the rural area in South Africa. I need to have a different instrument there because the type of people there cannot even write a proper application or a funding proposal. I need to set up an instrument as an investor. And I hope one day our international investors can appreciate this. So they cannot even write it. They've got brilliant ideas and concepts, but writing that you ask them, what is your target market? They tell you about their end user, right? Or whatever the case may be. So you need to have an instrument which in itself is a coupon. Then it has an element of assisting with business support. Someone who's going to help them, drafting the application, build them because of where they are. And we've seen a lot of successes. We're actually demonstrating a technology with Eskom under their Just Energy Transition Program, which is decarbonization, with one of the projects from our grassroots innovation program, where it's a guy in the UKZN, they've come up with this thing, and it's going now into Eskom. And no one thought that would happen, so we've got that suite of support because we see the value. So I think it's a partnership model where we say within this community, this is the kind of support that is required. We cannot deploy the same instrument for different activities or different kind of people. We must appreciate the differences and the capabilities of our own people, but we must, again, at the end of the day, we always look for value. We cannot just support for the sake of it's a rural area. There's SASA for that. There's social development for that. So our mandate is quite different, but we offer the appropriate support to get the venture out there.
Thank you. Next question. Got one in the corner over there, or this gentleman at the back, and then we'll move up to the lady in the corner.
Thank you, sir. I have a question for Sis Noltando, Utia. So, my name is Lunga. I'm a student entrepreneur studying at Stellenbosch. So, I like that you touch on the aspects of the agents deploying support and funding. So, I still feel that the government and the institution, there's still a lack in terms of supporting student entrepreneurs like myself. I don't know how much heavy lifting I've done in 1 year that I've started. I have tried to channel those concerns with the university, but it seems like they're just consuming, releasing academics and researchers. When you come, like an entrepreneur myself, as a student, you facilitate those conversations, you get nowhere. So I want you to ask, what is TIA busy planning or doing to help students on campuses across SA to have those systems in place, those ecosystems? I'm 21, and I see myself for the first time coming to such an event, and I'm learning a lot that, I would not get on campus or at my university. So what is the agency doing? Because I feel like people or students like myself who have these ideas or startups and want to scale and expand are really quite disadvantaged because you really have a minimum amount of support and funding. Like, if I can just say, if without Cape Town and the ecosystem in Cape Town, I don't know if we would have expanded or had some support, because I started in Stellenbosch and it's really quite minimum, which it's a surprise on its own, because I'm supposed to get more from that side. So I don't know what plans you guys have as the agency from the government side.
Maybe should we not take a round of questions? Maybe there might be questions for the other before I answer that.
We don't have that much time, so let's get the question from the lady in the corner over here.
Yes, and then we just answer all at the same time.
We've got one at the back and one in the corner, so let's just go to the lady in the corner and we'll come back to the gentleman at the back, and that's probably all the questions we'll be able to take, and maybe there'll be for some other members of the panel as well.
This question's for Sasha. What undiluted type of capital is there out there other than debt and revenue share? Are there any other methods in the investor space?
So I think that the point I was trying to make there was less about the different types that are available, and I agree we should, but it's more about thinking about combining them at any given point. So when you look at an investment, when you go to do an equity raise, a Series B or a Series C, instead of saying, I'm going to put straight equity into this business, really interrogating the business model and trying to think, are there more effective ways for me to sort of build the capital? So it was more the comment around capital formation. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other ones that have been super successful in other markets, except some DeFi protocols, which is essentially another form of venture debt, but it's basically using crypto. as like the sort of collateral for it in that situation.
Thank you, Sasha. Would you like to answer that question?
We've got one of our partners here in the house, and I'm going to put him in the spotlight. WZ Capital. I'm not going to say respond, Lunda, but I want to make an example. So what we've done is we used to have what we call a Youth Technology Innovation Fund within the agency, which was particularly looking at young people, students within universities between the ages of 18 and 30. Then we've since sort of like withdrawn that. So what we've done is in our industry matching fund, we have partnered with the SME Fund, one of the fund of funds in South Africa, a 1.4 billion rands fund, and we've partnered with them as a limited partner in different funds. One of those is a University Technology Fund, Biotech Fund, a venture fund, which is here in Cape Town, and we've also partnered with angel investors, Josie Angels, Dazzle Angels, and WZ Capital. And with those partnerships funds, that's where we're also trying to look at how do we access, ideas or projects or potential investments from students, mainly because the guys we've partnered with, the fund managers or the VC firms or angel investors, they are on the ground. They are able to go there and understand and help you with mentorship and support you to build a business and all of that, right? So I'll make an example with an investment we've made together with WZ Capital and Josie Angels. It's, just remind me, Lundi, the education thing. It's called, but it's an education app. It was done by students in WITS or UJ, and it's doing quite well. So we do have that support for students. We look for those projects or investments for students. I think we just need from our side to be out there and, market our instruments beyond the ground, through incubators, but I think one thing we should appreciate again is the issue I've mentioned about syndicating, right? Partnerships. We use collaborative method, we syndicate to partnerships, work with incubators, we work with universities. Now in universities, we work with what we call technology transfer offices. In South Africa, we've got about 26 universities, but the ones where there's a lot of activities of technology and innovation is 23 universities. And we've partnered with those 23 universities, and they're mining for us intellectual property that is sitting within those universities that can be turned into businesses that then VCs and whoever can invest in. So within that seed fund and those technology transfer offices within the university, you should be able to access the TIA and its instruments that could support you, including the work that you do with the other funders, the VCs, we do have support for student entrepreneurs, and that's what we've been saying in the latter days, is that we're seeing a lot of the researchers themselves, quite senior, old, and there needs to be some kind of knowledge transfer that the student themselves might be the one that have more of the capability to drive the spin-outs themselves. They could hand over to them rather than, a senior researcher who must just rather maybe focus more on being, the CTO or whatever you call it. So we do have appropriate support, and we have been driving student entrepreneurship. We've partnered with EDHE, the Enterprise Development in Higher Education, by the Department of Higher Education and Training, where we want to deploy, specific targeted support and instruments through our partners and through our direct investment. So we do have that support. But colleagues, I'm here just 10 minutes after this talk. I will share my contact details somewhere. I think you can get them from Christoph, the convener of the conference. Anything you want to get or find out about our organization, please try and go to him for him to give you our contact details, because I just feel that can be a technology innovation agency conference.
All right, fantastic. There's one thing I talk to my startups about when they go to pitch is that, you can always continue the pitch during the question and answer, and I think we're seeing that brilliantly exhibited. Do we have any questions for the other panelists, maybe? Raising of hands, thoughts, questions, ideas? We got one down in front.
Two.
We got two. Where are our mic passers? We'll start with this one over here.
My question is for everybody other than you, Tando. Sorry. The question is around when you're going to land in Africa, where do you start?
All right, maybe I can take that. I used to live in Israel I'm originally from Japan, but I used to live in Israel and also Palestine. I'm doing impact investment over there under the United Nations. And then later on, I moved to Rwanda, and I actually landed. That's where my journey starts in African in venture capital investments. I've been living in Rwanda for over 3 years, and now I'm based back and forth in Europe and in Africa right now. But I think that those ecosystems, of course, in Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, we see the very strong momentums. But at the same time, we also want to capture a very unique ecosystem, also strong entrepreneurs, and then also innovative mindsets coming out of Rwanda, Uganda, or Ethiopia. That's where some of the small enough, but not big enough to capture global investors, but they see very unique. Solving a very unique opportunity, very unique, social problems, and just because sometimes just because the country size is small, therefore they can actually do much faster than anyone else because of that. The government collaborate with them, and some of the very interesting innovation taking place. For instance, zipline might be the interesting example, running a proof of concept much faster than anyone else. Through the back of the support from the government. So we also like to capture and collaborate with small governments. For instance, Rwanda might be one of the interesting places to be based, or Uganda or Ethiopia, rather than the big major markets. But we also capture major markets as a team. But I myself like to be in a small ecosystem.
I don't know if this question applies to us. We have 5 portfolio companies and a team in Africa, and actually a bunch in Egypt. So we already have basically most of Anglophone Africa covered except for South Africa, and that's kind of why we're here, trying to figure out this ecosystem. If I could play one place that we haven't been before, Francophone Africa, I think we spoke to it a little bit this weekend, but currency union and language union is pretty incredible. And I wish more people looked into it. A lot of the time, we've actually spoken to founders in Francophone and said, we're not really ready to play here yet. And the feedback we get from them is basically every English-speaking investor says that. So I'm going to be practicing my French and try and go there soon.
So to your question, to if, I'm going to say yes. To when, I'm going to say hopefully no COVID impact in the next few years, 12 to 18 months. And to where, I think to a point that has been mentioned earlier on, it's all about talent. So, we're going to go with the flow, with the sort of best people we are able to embark on our journey. But to be fair, it'll be to be covering, the ecosystems we talked about. So, there's a few diagonals you can use. There's still a few airlines you can use, direct flights. So, there's probably a sort of southern, eastern Africa diagonal we can play around. So Nairobi to Cape Town and go anything in between. There's obviously the big hub in Lagos, which you can't really avoid. And then there's the Arabic-speaking and Western French-speaking Africa, right? So, out of these 4 or 5, we'll probably pick 2 or 3. And then depending on the talent pool and the people we partner with, who have to be founders like everyone in the team, we'll work on the back of that.
Great stuff. I'm wondering if we've got one more question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, and my name is Jean-Claude. I am co-founder and CEO at Mojo Ride, and I'm happy to see some of the panelists here. My question is really for the 3 of you. People talk about early stage investment, and I want to know how early do you typically come in? And what is your sweet spot? Thank you.
From our experience, we have done from the family rounds to a Series B round. For instance, probably one of the students over there asked early questions. We invest into the university-born startup out of the research lab. They do the telecommunication technologies, and then they just finished a Series A funding round backed by SoftBank and also Mizuho Corporates, and they do business in Djibouti, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe right now. And also a Series B round, we participate in a Safe Border during the Series B round. We co-invested together Allianz Investment. They just closed another rounds. I cannot name here right now, but the major one of the GAFA here. But I think we basically do from the early stage. But from our funds target size and then also the sweet spot is C round to Series A rounds. And that's where we see that we can leverage our all expertise and install and all our capacity, knowledge, and then also bring the technical aspects to boost the initial momentum of the startups.
Yeah, so we've historically played in the Series A space, and that's really like our sweet spot. We like to do $1 to $5 million as an entry ticket. But I think that over time we've realized we have to play up the stack and down the stack as well. But the only situations in which we will do like a seed investment or a Series B investment is really where we see strong alignment and that we can add value. We don't invest in companies that don't fall into that slot if we don't think that we can actually like incrementally help them to grow.
On my end, I wish I could invest in founders before they're born. I think that'd be great, right? So as early as possible is good for us. And to be fair, we do sort of, pre-product, 1 or 2 people. We've been doing that in Europe, and that's part of the plan for here, like really having a super business angel model where we can throw money at people who we think have the qualities as a team, because it's very important, to develop a transformative business. And that's what we've done. I mean, our first investments in Africa, has been a woman entrepreneur, pre-product in Nigeria, right? And these guys have just been backed by Besmer. So look, maybe we got something right there. We will have some mistakes, obviously, everyone does, but we're happy to do very early stuff because, there's plenty of things to be done at that stage, and that's where we think we can bring a lot of our expertise to the table as well, when know-how and war stories are probably as important as money.
All right, thank you very much. Big round for the panel. You guys can come on down. Thank you very much for your participation. You did a great job. Watch this step. Need a hand? She's wonderful. I'll grab that clicker from you. Thank you very much. One big more round of applause for our panel. Thank you very much. Oh, you guys are wonderful. I was going to take a seat, but I guess I won't be up here that long. Ah, there you go. Look at that. I'm kidding. Thank you, please. All right, fantastic. So we're getting close to the end of the day, but we've got one big chunk of exciting news. It's coming at you right quick. But before we do so, I look around the room and I see very attentive people who've been sitting here all day. How tired are you feeling? Ah, but see, that's a good indicator because you're so tired you can't even say, oh, God, so much information is going into my head. I feel like it's getting so heavy. I'm getting so tired. It's so hot in here. So why don't we all just give a nice big stretch. Yeah, there you go. Get that oxygen into your system a little bit. Stretch, move. Oh, I love cracking those bones. Oh, and I'm young. They're just waiting a couple of years when I start getting gray hairs, and I'm like, oh. But you know what's funny is when I still have gray hairs and I'm talking like that, I'm going to be right here because you can't tear me away from the stage. You can't tear me away from this event. I swear to it. So up next is a group of startups that is going to be pitching in Series A. As you all can imagine, this is a critical point in their journey. This is going to either sort of, I was going to say make or break, but sort of just make better. Because I know from running my business, I have my ups and lows. I have my good months and my bad months. But one thing I do know is that the month after that, I'm still going to be at it. And so I can imagine if you're working on something that you think can actually make an impact to the people around you, you're even more driven, you're even more ambitious, and you're not going to, it's sort of one of those out of my cold dead hands sort of thing, right? I see that our panel is getting into place. I think we're missing one seat to be filled. He's making his way down. My good friend Michael. Fantastic. Can we get a nice round of applause for our judges? Thank you for your participation. And it's funny because so often in this event, I want to be in so many different shoes. I want to be in the startup shoes when they talk to the investor. I want to be in the investor's shoes when they talk to the corporate. I want to be in the corporate shoes when he talks to the startups. There's one seat in the house that I never want to be in, and it's these seats right there. Because I never really want to judge or pick my favorite, because honestly, as Ben stated, I would take them all home with me. I would give them all grants. If I ever won the lottery, it would be spent within a day, because I would come here and spend all of my jackpot winnings right here. All right, so I've got my startups coming down to my left. Fantastic. I've got a clicker in my hand. Is there a microphone over there for them? My tagline today is that if you can hear me and you can see me, you're in the right room. If you can hear me and you can't see me, you're in the other beautiful room, but I'm going to invite you to come on down because I know my voice is loud and it carries all the way to the parking lot. So if you can hear me, I encourage you to come on down, take a seat, participate in our last round of Series A pitches. It's exciting, it's fresh, it's hot, it's new. You don't want to miss it. I feel like I missed a career in the radio for some reason. All right, where are my startups? Startups are here. Slide right over here. Make sure you're in order and ready to go. You got a microphone for you guys? Where's my mic man? We have a microphone for the startups, a microphone for the jury. Great. Fantastic. All right. So now, it's funny, we see each other so much throughout the day. Everybody's standing in the back. Come on down, take a seat, trust me. We're gonna go through several rounds of pitching, so take a seat, get comfortable. Excuse me, I'm talking so much. No, I'm kidding. If you're standing in the back, if you're hesitating to come in, don't worry, jump in, the water is fine. Look at all these smiling, happy, energetic people. They've just stretched, so they're ready to go. The startups are pumped, they've been practicing. I saw them at the boot camp. Are we good? No, are we good? Fantastic, that's a little closer, but I'm gonna need you to give a big round of applause. Shout, scream, whistle, make some noise for our startups, make some noise for our jury. We're gonna get 5 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes of question and answer. Thank you so much, that's what I like to hear. And we're gonna hit them with it.
Cross-border e-commerce. This is what we're going to talk about today. My name is Osama Sesi. I will be representing Fulfillment Bridge, a cross-border e-commerce logistics platform. So when you're an online seller, and especially when you're going international, there's a lot of problems that you're going to be facing on down the road. So you're going to be having to manage inventory on multiple locations, managing multiple orders on a daily basis, or facing complex international regulations. Of course, these problems are solved by third-party logistics, but only partially, either due to the lack of geographical coverage or due to the lack of services, or both sometimes. So you may ask, how do we know that? Well, actually, because we've been there. Several years ago, our founder and CEO was part of a global e-commerce venture. And he had to travel to contract and find these third-party logistics and monitor those services. So this was tedious, costly, and time-consuming. But it was funny a little bit with the right companion. So the good news is, we have the solution for this. So let's put it this way. Suppose that you're an online seller, and you'll be selling on one or multiple sales channels. You'll be needing one or multiple shipping options. And also you'll be having to store your goods in one or multiple locations. And you'll be involved with freight forwarders, custom clearance agents, and a bunch of other services to fulfill your orders. So these services are available on the market. We all know that, but on a very fragmented way. So as an online seller, you either have to patch the pieces of the puzzle, or you can use Fulfillment Bridge, a one-stop shop that will provide the whole supply chain for you. This also comes handy to our partners, since we're not only an aggregator for our clients, but also we're providing and we're removing the hustle and the struggle to find and to manage multiple online sellers. So the backbone of Fulfillment Bridge is actually its technology, which led us to acquire more than to build a network of more than 20 warehouses, more than 200 shipping options available to our clients, and more than 50 partners available to provide their services. And with this fast-growing network, we've added an AI layer that will capitalize on the data that we're gathering from the network. And it will give a full transparency and more decision-making tools to our clients. Sorry. And by the end of the day, the online seller with Fulfillment Bridge will get a seamless and fully digitalized experience. In terms of revenue, we've adopted a hybrid model, combining between software licensing, revenue sharing, and subscription model. which led us to acquire more than 100 clients and a revenue of $2.5 million. So since the beginning, Fulfillment Bridge was more focused on mature markets, such as the US, Australia, or Europe. But then since last year, we've been shifting our focus to the Middle East and Africa. Since not only because our roots belong here, but also because we've been noticing that cross-border e-commerce fulfillment as a business is growing 3 times faster in the region, more than the rest of the world. So you may ask, what is our secret sauce in Fulfillment Bridge? Well, actually, because we're simply available on the whole value chain of e-commerce fulfillment, managing every partner on behalf of our clients. And behind the scenes, I present to you a team that reflects the Fulfillment Bridge DNA, combining between youth and expertise in e-commerce, logistics, and technology. And finally, since last year, we've been having some recognition from Africa, and we've been selected among the top 5 startups in VC for Africa. And this year, we've been selected as the MENA champion of Seed Stars competition. And finally, we've received our first investor, which is Newtown Partners. Thank you. Looking forward for your questions.
Done. Time. Ah, there you go. Well done. Time to spare. Can we hear from our jury?
Thank you very much for that. Just give us an idea. What are your big plans for the next couple of years?
As I said in the presentation, our big plans is invading the market of Middle East and Africa. Okay.
Okay, cool. But in terms of, is that really kind of helping retailers outside of Middle East and Africa kind of sell into this market, or is it outside kind of in?
Yeah. Well, actually, our scope is mainly focusing on sellers from the region. So people who are selling in the region and also people who want to sell in the region. So we only focus on the origin and the destination of the orders that will be fulfilled. So our focus will be more on the online sellers that want to work in that region, and also on the third-party logistics that want to become fulfillment centers.
If you don't mind, could you just go back to your revenue slide? And I was trying to get an idea of your growth.
Yeah.
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 So it's great to see a revenue number, but if it was the same the previous year, that wouldn't be good. So
yes.
Oh, it's 4x. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think that's it.
All right. With time to spare,
Thank you.
give a big round of applause. Exit stage right. Our next startup is coming down. We're going to wash off the mic real quick. Sometimes the pitch is so concise, he doesn't even need the whole time. All right, microphone in hand, clicker in hand, 5 minutes on the clock. The stage is yours.
Afternoon. My name is Ted Pantone. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tirhal. Imagine you're sitting here right now and you get an urgent text from your sister. She tells you that she's just been in an accident, she's at the hospital, and she needs you to send her $100. She needs that money because the hospital she's at won't see her unless she pays cash up front in advance. What a terrible situation. First, your sister's just been in this accident, and second, what kind of hospital is this that requires cash before they're willing to give care? Well, if your sister is in sub-Saharan Africa, the answer to that question is most of them. This is not just for accidents. If you fall ill, if you're hospitalized, if you don't have cash up front, you're not going to get seen. And the core problem here is that people don't have insurance, right? So 90% of the continent is uninsured. No one has medical insurance, life insurance, and this is a problem Tirhal is working to solve. The Tirhal is a bright, beautiful bird located in East and Central Africa. Its nickname is the go-away bird, because it lets other animals know of the presence of predators. It helps people mitigate risk. We are Tirhal. Our mission is to free people from the fear of financial shocks. Insurance is not new in our markets. You guys all know all of the insurance companies that operate across the continent, but no one has cracked the mass market for insurance in any significant way yet. So the attempts that have been made into microinsurance have either been too philanthropic in nature or have focused on kind of brokering deals, getting quick wins and getting lots of customers quickly, but not creating sticky long-term customer relationships. And this is the innovation that Tirhal is working towards. So we're doing everything commercially, digitally, scalably for sticky long-term customer relationships. Let me explain how. So to start off, looking at our business model, we work with local insurance companies to underwrite our risk currently. We'll probably start carrying our own risk in Uganda next year because the economics are making sense based on our growth. We design products that are really simple, easy to understand, and approachable for mass market consumers. Typically, our policy wording is explained in just a couple of text messages. We do all the actuarial science, all of the underwriting ourselves, and then take it to insurers to price it out and find someone that's willing to underwrite it. We then take those products and distribute them digitally via B2B to C sales. So you can think of what we're building as a subscription model for insurance, where in a rational frame of mind, someone says, okay, I want insurance, I'm willing to forego something in the future. The emotional decision of actually reaching into their pocket to pay for it is really hard. So it plays well for a subscription model. The problem is there's not credit cards that we can charge. So we have to be creative about how we do that transaction, and we bundle our products with other fintech solutions, mobile network operators, banks, MFIs, and bundle the insurance into a transaction that people are already doing on a regular basis. The consumer is then protected. We then continue to use our call center to upsell more products for maximizing customer lifetime value. And then we manage all admin and claims digitally for really great customer experience, typically paying claims within 24 hours directly to someone's mobile money. So as I said, we work through partnerships. We have lots of bruises from good and bad partnerships over the last few years since we launched. We've learned how to make them really sing, and how to integrate properly technologically with them, how to not integrate technologically with them at times. And have really captured a lot of learnings there and have a lot of new partnerships in the pipeline as well. From a traction standpoint, we've paid more than 4,000 claims. We have actually closer to 180,000 end users. Trailing 12-month revenue of north of $1.5 million. This month it's probably going to be 180,000. We launched a business in Kenya and Uganda and are just taking our first steps into Nigeria. Our goal, our vision, is to insure 1 billion people in the next 25 years. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's what we are building towards. So it defines the type of team that we've built. It defines the technology that we're building. It defines the types of investors that we're working with. We closed a seed round in November of last year, led by Novastar Ventures, and are just taking our first steps towards our Series A now. So we're not officially on the market, but having lots of conversations with different investors. So would love to discuss with anyone that might be interested in joining us on this journey to change insurance on the continent. Thank you.
All right, well done. Big round of applause. 3 minutes on the clock. Question and answer.
You can just shout it. I'll repeat it.
So if we could maybe reset that timer, because we're having technical issues. There we go.
Thank you so much for the pitch.
Thank you.
My first question would be around your business model. How do you generate money, basically?
Yeah, so we take a commission. We have a 25% take rate on all of the premiums that we tell.
Okay. The second one is insurance rate. I think the penetration is around 3%, maybe less, in Africa. How is this model relevant, and how is it different from the other models, and why do you think it's the right one to tackle this issue?
I think insurance is at a really similar place to where microfinance was 15, 20 years ago, where none of the big banks were looking at mass market consumers with any level of seriousness. Now today, it's a highly profitable business and everyone's wanting to invest there, at least in the corporate banks and the PE world. I think insurance is at the same place as 15, 20 years ago from that. So all the insurers are looking at the top couple percent of the market and very happy with their margins there and not really willing to innovate. Sorry if there are any insurers in the room, that's my perception. And yeah, we're looking at everybody else and thinking that there's a massive opportunity there. You just need to make it much more frictionless. So just remove a lot of the friction in the onboarding and the payment to be able to make that possible.
Cool, thanks for the preso. I also thought it was really good. Just that revenue number, is that a net revenue? Is that?
Yeah, GWP. Sorry, top line.
So
yeah.
yours is
25% of that, yeah.
Okay. Cool, thanks.
So how does your sister now get the cash to pay the doctor?
It's a good question. So knowing that she has insurance, she can get cash from her regular streams and know that she's able to repay people really quickly. So all of our products operate on a reimbursement basis to reduce fraud and kind of cut the providers out of the stream where most fraud comes from. But she can now go get care, clear her bill, and get repaid within a couple of days.
But like, do the hospitals actually accept that?
We pay directly to the end user, so we don't pay to the hospital. That's where the fraud comes from. 95% of it.
Yeah, just one last question. You mentioned the intro was really kind of compelling, you know, in terms of this woman in the hospital and she needs $100 to be treated. But then you mentioned that payouts, yeah, is 24 hours plus. So is that the kind of use case, or is it more of a planned, you know, kind of event?
So the use case is any situation where someone winds up in hospital, which can happen both. Oh, looks like I'm out of time, but can happen both in an emergency situation and in a planned use situation. Fair question. Thank you, everyone.
All right, well done. Thank you. Big round of applause. Gonna wash down that mic. Our third startup is getting ready to hit the stage. 5 minutes on the clock. And the stage is yours. As soon as we get those slides working. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Kaingo, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lupia, and we are building Africa's digital bank for emerging markets. When we started Lupia, our goal was to create a platform that created the opportunity for financing for individuals and businesses who do not have access to formal financial services. Banks and financial institutions are not catering to the capital needs of emerging African countries, and as a result, 65% adults remain marginalized from formal financial services. 1 million SMEs shut down every year due to lack of capital, and 30 million children remain uneducated in sub-Saharan Africa, and not to mention, 70% of women still remain financially excluded. So we're tapping into a serviceable obtainable market of 10.8 billion in Africa, and out of a total accessible market of 108 billion in the rest of Africa. We're currently operating in Zambia and are looking to expand to Malawi, Tanzania, the DRC, and Tanzania. So while we've operated in the last 5 years, we've realized that we're only solving half of the solution. We're providing loans, but we're not providing the holistic solution that our customers are saving. And this is why we are developing a digital bank. What we're trying to do is provide online banking services that will provide wallets, payments, and loans. We further would like to provide peer-to-peer lending that will provide investment opportunities and lending opportunities for our customers. We've just been green-lighted by the Securities Exchange Commission in our country to provide peer-to-peer lending, and this is going to be the first of its kind in Zambia. Further to this, we would like to provide financial literacy for our customers, a resource that will help them make better financial decisions. And to that, we would also like to add a child fund where 4% of our customer repayments will go into this fund. So this is an overview of our platform and what it looks like. We currently use a website where customers can access our products, and eventually in the next 18 to 36 months, we'd like to add banking services, the peer-to-peer lending, and the financial literacy. So we're happy with Lupia's traction to date. Our revenue has quadrupled in the year. We've grown by 785% in just a year, and our net income has grown by 8,000%. Our loan book today sits at $750,000 from a company that started with $500 5 years ago. We raised our first seed round from Enigma Ventures last year of $1 million US, which we've used to fuel our loan book growth. And just last month, we were shortlisted 30 out of 3,000 startups on the continent by the prestigious Google Black Founders Fund. And we've been awarded $300,000 in marketing spend and cash. We've also been recognized for the work that we do in our country, and we've been awarded the Financial Inclusion Award 2020, and this just provides us a lot of validation for our platform. So Lupia's financials are here for display and are for the next 5 years, and as you can see, in year number 5, we'll be getting a net profit of $10 million US. There's a full model available upon request if you'd like to see. Lupia's financial KPIs, and we're just happy that come 2022 in January, would have reached annualized revenue of $1 million US, validation that we have product market fit for our company. 2 use case examples of the child fund right here, and what we're trying to do is make sure that not only do we want to make money, but would like to create impact in the countries that we operate. We've embarked on a bold vision of ensuring that 200,000 children in sub-Saharan Africa get education in the next 10 to 15 years. A comparison of the neobanks on the continent. As you can see, Lupia is providing a holistic service for emerging African countries. And what we've classified as emerging African countries are countries like Zambia, Tanzania, Malawi, and the DRC that everyone on the continent or investors are ignoring. The team there is myself. I'm the co-founder and CEO with a background in economics and finance. My co-founder, Muchu, who's the software engineer, who's built Lupia's tech stack from the ground up. The management team at the bottom, and our advisor, Lelemba, who's a seasoned entrepreneur and actually based here in Cape Town. Our investors, Sarah and Jake, who sit on our board and provide valuable insights for our platform. And our bid ask is $10 million US, and what we want to do with this cash is fuel our loan book growth, build and scale our technology, as well as purchase banking licenses in the countries that we're looking to operate in the next 18 to 36 months. Thank you for your time, and I'll take questions.
Fantastic, well done. Let's hear from our jury.
Sorry, the financial?
Thank you so much for the pitch. My first question would be around the licenses that you have in Zambia. This is more for an educational for me, because I don't know what licenses exactly are there to provide financial services, especially a wide range of financial services.
Right. So we're currently operating on a money lender's license, and we've just signed up for a microfinance license with the regulators, which is Bank of Zambia. And to move into the other countries that we are speaking of, we have to go with the regulator, which is the institutional bank, the bank regulator, and that's who we get the licenses from.
Question number 1, are you really profitable this year? And question number 2, what's the depreciation coming from in the last year?
Okay, so we are currently profitable. We closed the year at a net income of $82,000 US, and the depreciation is coming from the OPEX, as you can see, and this is going to be on the technology.
Congratulations, it's amazing.
Thank you.
We've got a little bit of time. I'm just interested to know, in this game of neobanks, everyone's doing it. With respect, I mean, it's a big prize, so that's why everyone's doing it. But is it a winner-takes-all game, or will there be a whole bunch of these successful businesses in the years to come?
Right. If you look at what our focus has been, we are not entering the spaces that the neobanks are currently focused on. We are focused in countries that we know, that we've operated in, which is Zambia, where we're currently operating. And so that's the big one, that's the first big differentiator of what we're going to do against the other neobanks who are focused on Kenya, Egypt, and Nigeria. Secondly, as you can see from my slide, we are heavily focused on creating impact as well as inclusivity. We have a purpose-driven engine for women, and half of our loan portfolio is focused on women, which our competition is still not doing up to now.
And just a question, do you need a banking license in each of these countries that you're entering, or is it possible to offer some other services while you're in the process of it?
The next 18 months is to leverage off of partnerships because that's a very heavy cost if we start with banking licenses. We are talking to FDH, a bank in Malawi, and we started to make conversations in Tanzania as well. And we initially want to leverage off partnership before we come in with the heavy investment on licenses.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause for our jury and the startup. Our next startup is getting ready. And watch out, ladies and gentlemen, she has props, prototypes and all. She's gonna get her settled. We got 5 minutes on the clock. When you're ready. There you go. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Isabel, and today I would like to introduce to you Polycare. Polycare is revolutionizing the construction industry. How? We developed a building technology that replaces brick and mortar. It empowers people to build houses fast, clean, with local materials at scale. The conventional building industry is not innovating fast enough. I'm sure we all followed COP26 in Glasgow recently, where we all learned that if we want to continue to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal, we need to save another 45% of global CO2 emissions by 2030. Now, concrete records the highest CO2 emissions across all industries. In 20 years, nobody can build with this anymore. It's not reusable, it's not recyclable, and it uses a scarce resource, sand, which we take out of our riverbeds and our oceans. So we've developed a technology, the polyblocks, that follows a circular economy approach. It's made out of polymer concrete, which is 40 times stronger than a brick. And it's 90% waste sand filler material and 10% resin, which binds the material. How does it work? Just imagine a Lego house. Those are the blocks. That's made from a factory in Namibia that we've built up 2 years ago. You start at the bottom, you put up the bricks, you end with a beam on top, and that's your house. In 2 days, you can build a 65 square meter house like that. I think it's probably easier and quicker than building some complicated Lego blocks. The technology that enables this type of building is the Poly Builder. We've developed an algorithm that calculates exactly how many blocks in which configuration does your specific project need in order to be built. It follows all the steps that you need to build a house, starting from design up until building the house, by giving you a 3D model that shows you what type of blocks do you need and enables the invoicing process. It tells the manufacturing plant what to produce. They pellet it, they send it to the customer. Customer only receives the amount of blocks that they require for their project. They build it up with a manual that comes with it. And in the end, after a week, you can build your house and you don't have any waste. These are some examples of buildings we've built in Namibia. And this is our concept house in Johannesburg, at Victoria Arts in Johannesburg. So our business model is really focusing on setting up local ventures. We employ a licensing model where local partners can acquire the IP to manufacture, to produce, to distribute and sell the technology against a license fee. That license fee is linked to the output of the factory. So it's a win-win situation. Polycare is in it for the long term. We are there to support on a technical side, access to markets, access to funding opportunities, and research and development. So we're continuously developing that product as a team. These are our 3 revenue streams. The licensing fees of the factories being our main revenue stream. So just imagine, in South Africa, where we're building a factory next year, if we cover just 1% of the building sector, this equates to 20 to 30 factory lines. And that again equates to an annual revenue in licensing fees between 2.2 and 3.5 million euros. We are very ambitious. By 2025, we want to grow from the 2 factories, Namibia and South Africa, to 30 factories worldwide. You can see our focus is on Africa. We are in advanced stages of conversations with partners in Nigeria, Ghana, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Mauritius, and Zambia. In a lot of other countries, we have started conversations, but those are the countries where we actually have signed NDAs and so forth. And this is the A team that makes the revolution happen. The team has doubled in the last year, and we keep on growing. So if you would like to grow with the team, if you would like to invest, especially in our Africa strategy, if you would like to help set up local ventures, let me know. For now, thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to your questions and input.
All right, well done. Let's hear from our jury.
Thank you. That's absolutely fascinating. 2 questions. Firstly, the cost. How does it compare with kind of traditional manufacturing methods? And is there any constraint on the availability of the input materials?
Okay, that's the question, and I was fearing the most, but I knew it was going to come. So if you compare just the wall-to-wall structure, polyblocks and brick and mortar, it is about double the price for now, especially in the Southern African market. It will be different in markets where concrete is more expensive, okay? But the actual value that you get for your house is through the optimization. So it's a product that you can build much faster, so you save lots of time on construction time, on labor, and so forth. And obviously also in the long run, because it's something modular and so forth. So that's kind of on the saving. And also, as I said before, this is a product, and we are very open about it. It works at scale. That's why we want to grow and we want to be ambitious. If we have one factory in Namibia building 100 houses every day, this is not going to be the solution to brick and mortar. So that's the first question. And the limitation on the materials, that's actually the reason why this is the solution, because it can use any flowable material. So in Namibia, we're using desert sand. In South Africa, we're building the factory in Atlantis next to the biggest foundry, using the foundry sand. In Europe, we're experimenting with demolition waste. So we're basically looking for the stuff that nobody wants, that ends up on dumps every day, bind it with a resin, and got the blocks.
Thank you so much. Very interesting product. How many customers do you have, and how long is the sales cycle?
Okay, that's a good question. So our first customer was in Namibia about 2 years ago, and that took probably 2 years to actually set up and understand it, because it was the first time. Now we've developed a sales process that's about 6 months. And the reason why it's so long is because we want to go on this journey with the customer together. We want to understand, what does your country look like, what is the market, build a business case together, understand competition, build a concept house, and then go together. And that takes time. So we're not just like, here, this is the technology, pay 1.5 million euros, let me know when you've got it, and we come back. So we're starting in the beginning together on that journey, and then it's also more, it's scalable, it's feasible, and it's less likely to fail.
Considering the pricing, why start in Namibia? Why not go to a developed country where people are, like they have more money and they're more interested, maybe more interested in, spending money on globally viable products, etc.?
There is a housing deficit in Africa, and we need to solve that problem. And we need to build quick, and you need to provide the infrastructure for that. And there's lots of sand in Namibia.
All right, well done. Thank you very much. Grab a hand to grab those blocks. And grabbing the mic. All right, let's get 5 minutes on the clock. Our next startup is walking up, microphone and clicker in hand.
Okay, so this is forward and backward. Hi. My name is Jean-Claude, co-founder and CEO of Moja Ride. Is anybody here from Paris, by any chance? All right. So imagine you wake up tomorrow morning in Paris and the metro no longer gives you a schedule. You don't own a car, Uber is too expensive. How will you get to work? That is actually the reality for millions of people in African cities where transportation is too expensive, undependable, unreliable. And this is in part because the transport network itself is fragmented, mostly offline. In Abidjan, for instance, 85% of all transport are offline. We depend on matatus and the taxis and the like. This is due, the high cost is mainly due to the inefficiencies of the transport network. So the first thing we're trying to do is bring all mode of transportation online through a single app. So the Moja Ride app will be your gateway to your matatus, your taxis, your on-demand, everything that you like in your city. This is the easiest part. The reason transportation is difficult in our cities is because, on one hand, the drivers, as I said, 1% of taxi drivers in Côte d'Ivoire own the taxi they drive. The drivers who operate as a company still struggle to have access to capital to renew their fleet. So what we did is we allowed them to bring any type of vehicle onto the Moja Ride platform, and then we create on the back of it a digital wallet, which is basically a virtual Visa card. You can interact with it which way you want. And that is really what we see as a feature enabler of transportation, because we're providing the data that create the credit scoring system that will allow banks and microfinances to finance those vehicles, have better vehicles on the road. So fair payment, which is our entry point, is estimated to be $96 billion. In Abidjan, this is a $600 million market, and we believe at Moja we are on track to capture 32 million of that. We believe transport network is just a merchant network. So transportation networks are the largest, the most active merchant network in any city you go to. So then we leverage the transport network to distribute financial services, and we capture the payment data to enhance transportation. Today, acting as a payment processor for transportation, we charge 1% on every fare we process. On top of that, we enable shuttle services on the subscription model starting at $50 a month. And for on-demand ride, we charge 10% commission on each ride we process. Something quite interesting happened when we decided to begin to leverage the data we've been capturing from the transaction network, from the transaction on the network. As I said earlier, we were not sure about this until now, that actually banks will rely on the data we provide to issue loans. When we enabled that feature on the platform, 400 drivers came in into 2 weeks, 175,000 worth of loans were made in the same about 30 days. So today, we are taking a step back. We have an incredible group of partners who have joined our journey. Visa today is backing us. AXA is providing insurance for every trip that we make. That's quite important. When you take a ride on the Moja network, your trip is insured beyond what the transport operator does. And if you are a rider, we provide you through AXA an insurance policy that covers you in case of accident for about 2 million safer on top of whatever the insurance does, because usually liability insurance for auto is time consuming for claims, so we shortcut that with our own insurance. So the team, myself, I'm a network engineer by trade, cybersecurity engineer. Michelle is the one we brought in earlier this year to handle all the financial aspect of what we do. We were ready to go last year we processed about close to 500,000 rides, and as we enable new revenue stream, we're scaling back and actually raising a pre-Series A round as a bridge round for $750,000, which is a SAFE with a 2.5 million cap at 20% discount. So please join Orange Digital Ventures, Toyota Mobility 54, and other angels in helping us make transportation better for our cities. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, let's get 3 minutes on the clock and hear from our jury.
Great, thank you very much for that. I'd just like to understand the unit economics a little bit better. If you look at Uber, Bolt, they charge anything from 15 to 25, even more percent. Can you run the business profitably at kind of 10% type of take rate?
So 10% is what we make on every on-demand ride, kind of what Uber does. $50 a month on the subscription for the shuttle services, and 1% on the payment processing. The reason we can do that is really we get an additional 18%. Every vehicle on the platform is insured through us, and we have a commission of 18% of that insurance premium. So we're discounting our service from the revenue we're making through partnerships that we have. So it's more of an embedded finance model rather than the actual mobility solution that we're charging for.
Thank you. Quick question. How do you incentivize drivers?
Great question. Drivers, 1% of the drivers own the cars they drive. What actually is happening in the African market is that Uber, for instance, is creating a sub-market. So you have people like, let's say you own 10 vehicles. I drive for you as an Uber driver, but you pay me whatever Uber pays you. So in reality, the drivers are at the lowest of the value chain. What they gain through us, we're saying, look, you drive with us, the more trip you get, higher is the chance to get a vehicle financed for our financial partner, because that bank, all they need to know is that you have the money you say you make, and therefore every vehicle coming through us has a telematic device, so we monitor behavior, where you're driving, how you're driving. This is what we bring to the driver to make it easy for them to get a vehicle financed. So the driver get a car working with us to make it easy.
Maybe another question. What would be your priorities for the next 12 months?
So something that kind of surprised us is really how we thought about it, but we were not sure the bank will actually go along with it. We have 400 drivers, about 100 drivers every 2 weeks, every week coming to us to join the program. So we have a pipeline of drivers for which we need to match with financial institutions. So priority for us right now is to get more banks along, more banks. We're talking to people like Untap Capital, all the asset financing companies, to bring more money in so we can finance more cars for our drivers. So priority is to get more drivers financed through us this year. Thank you.
All right, well done. Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Just get that mic sorted. Set up those slides. Careful, we're not next to the speaker with the mic. And a big round of applause for our next startup, please. 5 minutes on the clock. The stage is yours.
A very good afternoon to you. I am Sasha, and I have the privilege of presenting Job Crystal to you today. Unfortunately, I get the challenge of presenting late in the afternoon, so I will be pitching to the investors in the room, but a big thing to the startups in this room. Zach said earlier, hiring is more important than capital, so I'm hoping to show you a product that can help you as well. So what's the problem? Small to medium businesses, startups like you in the room, hire slowly. The recruiting tools available to you are very expensive, and often it's a detriment to your business. Having started 5 businesses before, I understand how important it is to hire well and hire fast. So what if a machine could go through 34 million people in a few seconds based on a job description and show you 10 people that match that job? We've done our market research, SMEs get offered very expensive rec tech, recruitment technology, available due to rec tech being more accessible to the corporate environment. Reason being is they offer subscriptions. Startups only hire about 10 people in a year in the beginning. Corporates hire hundreds. So subscription models work for them, but doesn't work. The rec tech available in the industry uses AI, but it uses a very minor based on a keyword search. So what's the solution? I feel like I need a drum roll, but meet Crystal. The reason we called her Crystal was we actually bought the company a few years ago and didn't understand what job Crystal meant. We figured out that Crystal was our AI machine, was to take the creepiness away from AI. It was to help startups, SMEs like yourselves, find 10 candidates based on a job description. You don't need to put in a keyword search. It will find you the 10 candidates. Why now? The recruitment industry is ripe for revolution. It's ready for disruption, and that's what we're ready for. The product's really simple. As a client, you register, you add your job description. Crystal will go and search through 34 million people, find you 10. Simple. For candidates, even easier. They join, upload their CV, get 10 jobs. For those of you that haven't looked for a job in a number of years, most candidates have to retype their CV on every job portal or job board. The market, our initial launch is in South Africa. We're looking at about 2.5 million SMEs, about 1.2 of them employ more than one employee, and about 750,000 use RecTech. Obviously, we would like to do this globally, so we would like to launch Crystal into South Africa and then look into other countries. A very simplistic revenue model, SME purchase for a job, about 2,500 Rand with a gross profit of 80%. There is a corporate model where they can white label Crystal for themselves, and that's on a gross profit of 70%. Traction, we've been around since 2015, building Job Crystal. We already have 3,000 clients, 250,000 candidates, and Crystal's already 90% built. She works. She's working on my team at the moment and hiring people for them, and we currently require further funds to test, market, and sell. Who's our competition? 4 quadrants here, so Google. Just a little bit tiny for us. They use AI, but they work on the passive talent. What a lot of AI recruitment companies do is they look at LinkedIn, just like the rest of you do when you're looking for talent. Talent Scraper, also in South Africa, looks at a basic AI technology, but they look on the active market, not on AI, and with internationally Seek Out an Amazing Hire, also use AI, but again on the passive talent side. We are doing something that nobody else has done. We're looking at the passive market, the active market, and all your applications. So for example, you put a job description out there. How many CVs do you get? About 500. Crystal will screen those for you. So it's saving you time so you can concentrate on the business and not in the business. So the jockeys to back. I'm Sasha. I'm a CEO, IT entrepreneur experience. My claim to fame, I previously sold a business to Clientele Life, so I was in the insurance business. I was also previously headhunted by Richard Branson to start a brand within the Virgin brand in South Africa. Kelly Lowe, the other half of Job Crystal, runs our business on our operations with a very fine tooth comb, and it's very well run. And Sarah Dusak, non-executive director, she's an investor and an entrepreneur, and she's previously scaled a business from 0 to $100 million. Our investment ask is more of a bridging side. It's 3.2 million. It's rated to on terms of debt, revenue share, or equity, and it's to launch Crystal into South Africa. So we'd like to, our big passion, our why we do this is to make a dent in unemployment. The reason we focus on SMEs is that we employ 60% of the employable force in South Africa. So some points for the investors. Crystal works already. We're expected a 1 million revenue within 18 months. We have a very clear strategy in place. Our AI works. We have a human touch in place to move away from the bias that AIs create. And we currently have a successful business that's already doubled its revenue in the past year. We are pioneering technology that no one else has. So I will be around for a little bit later this afternoon and would love to chat to some of you. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's interesting. I'm interested to know just a little bit more about your AI kind of expertise within your team. And also, you say Crystal works. What kind of data have you got to show that it does work rather than just say it works?
So actually, I started as a computer programmer, so I've got a programming experience myself. We have outsourced some of our developers, and we're using actually 4 different types of companies based in the Netherlands, US, South Africa, and another one in Johannesburg. Sorry, the question was the IT technology and the... how's Crystal? Okay. So we've got the 250,000 candidates that we've used on our base, that we've used Crystal to see how well she matches. And obviously we used a first training data of about 7,000. Because we use a passive data, we can also use the 3.7 billion people of employable people based on 42 different sites. So we don't only use LinkedIn, we use a whole bunch of range of data.
Thank you. My question is more about the customers. So in which geographies are most of them located, and what's the sectors, the sizes of these businesses?
So our focus is on the SMEs, so anybody who employs more than one person. So from one person, we find that more of our medium-sized businesses, so those that are employing from probably about 200 to 1,000, is more of our niche market of where we are at. Industries all but medical. Medical works a little bit differently in the recruitment space. And we found that within SME space, everybody needs the back office. So they need an admin, sales, marketing, finance person, and IT, and that's generally what the system does really well. But we have hired aircon technicians to CEOs to PAs. So it does a full range.
The SME market is obviously very fragmented. Maybe I missed it, but how do you get to that market?
So SME market, are you talking more rural, informal, or are you talking more the formal SME market?
Just how do you make them aware of you and use your service?
So a range, we use PR, Google AdWords, social media. We use conferences, a lot of the conferences that goes out, and more on the training side. Thank you very much.
All right, wonderful. Big round of applause. That microphone sorted. Get the clicker in hand. Welcome our next startup to the screen. I'm just gonna hesitate for just a second because, there goes that big lovely screen. No pitch is complete without the pitch deck. 5 minutes on the clock. Pass to the next slide, I think. And you're ready to go.
Hey guys, my name is Sean Sanders. Now, I want you to think of a really big number, $68 trillion, because that's how much money is going to change hands between generations over the next 25 years. And the majority of that money is going to land in the hands of millennials and Gen Zs. Now, I don't like to call these millennials or Gen Zs. They should rather be grouped and called Generation W, Generation Weird. Why? Because they like to invest and buy and do a whole bunch of weird things. In fact, this generation is very different to their parents, as we all know. They do very, very different things. And today, I want to talk about an investment platform that does very different things and that caters to this new generation of investors. Now, the new generation of investors that exist out there, they want to invest in alternative investments more than any generation that's come before. They are self-directed investors, DIY investors. They want to manage money themselves. These are investors that need a new age of investment platform, and that's where we're going to come in. So, Revix today is a cryptocurrency investment platform. We offer a variety of different cryptocurrency-related products, and these start with single cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and a whole bunch of others. We offer then cryptocurrency bundles, which are uniquely our own. And these provide sort of like S&P 500-like exposure or JSE Top 40-like exposure to the crypto space. So you're getting diversified exposure to this novel asset class. Now, by the way, this is a different pitch deck to the one I presented, so I'm going to be spitballing a little bit more than normal. But where are we going? We are headed in a direction where we'll be expanding well beyond the world of just crypto. This new generation, as I said, they want to invest in alternative investments. They want to invest in emerging themes and categories and invest in areas that they believe in. And we want to cater to exactly that. So going forward, we're playing more in the neo-broker space. We're branching out from just focusing on crypto-related products and offering a variety of theme-based investment products and alternative investments. Imagine being able to go to a platform and say, well, listen, I'd love to invest in AI. I'd love to invest in biotech, 5G technology, maybe some of the fantastic startups that you've seen in the room. Invest in commodities. You know, investing no longer just sits with equities or sits with bonds. It goes well beyond that. You can buy Instagram accounts today and flip them. You can buy Pokemon cards and flip them. Classic cars and fine wines. You know, all of these things are emerging asset classes. So where have we come from? Over the last 12 months, we've seen explosive growth, and I've got bad allergies, so apologies for that. So we started this year with 8 employees. We're sitting today with 37 employees. We've raised $3.6 million since our launch, and we are doing a Series A of $10 million right now. We've got a fantastic team. I always feel like the stupidest person in the room, and I think that's my job, is to always find the smartest people around me. Registered users, we have over 30,000 registered users. Our monthly recurring revenues, as things stand right now, are over $170,000. And if the market keeps going as well as it's been going and our marketing team keeps doing their thing, we'll be sitting with over $210,000 in revenue in November this month. Active users, which are slightly different to registered users, these are monthly paying users on the platform, sit at 9,000, and we're looking to make $1.5 million in revenue this year. Now, I spoke about a little bit about what we do, but in a more succinct way, we're a platform that enables everyday people to invest in emerging themes, sectors, and asset classes in an effortless way. Something we're very proud of is we are the highest rated investment platform across Africa. We've got over 5,000 five-star rating and reviews across Trustpilot and Google, and we've been featured in some pretty big name publications. We've got a load of other achievements. I'm not going to go through those, but what I'm really, really excited and passionate about is the Chelsea football game that we sponsored earlier this year. We got this an absolute steal and got over 2,000 signups from it through a social media competition. Now, our mission, if this goes on, there we go, is to empower our customers to become their own wealth managers. We really believe that people should be managing their own money. Not all the time, but most of the time. And we want to do this by providing access to thematic, impact, and alternative investments, as well as incentivizing smart investing actions through our gamified rewards program. So I started speaking about where we are, and I progressed forward into some of the themes, impact-focused opportunities, and alternatives. You can see behind me some of the investment products that we're going to be launching in the near future. But something I want to talk about are our investment goals. The themes, the impact focus, the alternative investments, those are all investment products, right? You go out to a platform and you can buy one of these different products. The gamified investment tools, I'll take a step back, the gamified investment tools such as Auto Invest, Investment Goals, and Trigger Happy, they're uniquely our own. These are they're sort of like bringing the Discovery Vitality-like model to investing. So we want to responsibly gamify investing, incentivizing longer-term investing, rewarding customers that diversify a portfolio. What separates us is we take the mystery out of investing, we offer thematic, alternative, and traditional investments on a single platform, and we reward investors for making smart investing decisions. And I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to simply jump onto where we are right now. We have $3.6 million committed in this round already. We're raising $10 million, and we would love you to join us for our journey. So I look forward to answering some questions.
Fantastic. Well done. Thank you very much. Let's get 3 minutes on the clock.
Hi there, can I jump in? You're making pretty good revenues. Your gross margins, they're pretty high.
About 82%.
82%. Empowering the average man on the street to become an investor, how risky is that in terms of somebody losing their nest egg because they just don't have the skills to invest properly from a reputational perspective?
That's the biggest question. And I mean, that actually then comes back to our marketing strategy. So I mean, everything we do is educational focused. We don't advocate customers go out and put their life savings in crypto. If you actually hear us on the radio, you hear us on a podcast, we're saying allocate 1 to 5% here. When we introduce, say, the S&P 500 that you can invest in, allocate another 5 to 10%. And our job then would be to incentivize customers to build that diversified portfolio and reward them as they do so. Sort of nudge them in the right direction, just like what a financial advisor does. Because at the end of the day, most IFAs, as an example, they advise you what to invest in, or they advise somebody else what to invest in. Now, we believe that if you go out 5 or 10 years, you would have self-directed investing. I mean, this trend is obviously massive in the States. It's growing in the UK and growing in the EU, and we think that that'll become a bigger thing going forward. So doing that in a more responsible way, in a more responsible way versus a less responsible way and not caring about it is obviously, critically important.
Sorry, I don't want to hold the questions. Who are your competitors?
Internationally, so we're actually focusing a lot more on the EU and the Middle Eastern market. South Africa has been a bit of a test market for us. 95% of our customers are currently based in South Africa, though. So if you look at the Middle East and you look at sort of all the challenger banks that you'd be competing with, because at the end of the day, the likes of Revolut, they're moving more into the investment space. I mean, as I said earlier on in the presentation, money management is money management, right? It's at the end of the day, the banking, the investing, the trading, all of that seems to be happening on the same platform. What does separate us, though, and I'm sort of avoiding the question, but not avoiding the question, I'll come back. The likes of Robinhood, Easy Equities, all of these land up becoming competitors. But I think what makes us very unique is the gamified side of things. So looking at responsibly gamified investing, Discovery's done it very well in the health space. We believe that we can do it well in the investing space.
Just a quick one on why you're the right person to run a business like this. You are running it, right?
I'm running it, yes.
Yeah.
I'm the founder and CEO. Right person, so before Revix, I worked for 8 years in finance and asset management. I worked at a family office for 3 years. I worked at a large industrial investment firm it's a JSE listed company. I managed their tech portfolio, which is over $100 million. And then I moved over and worked at a hedge fund in Seattle for a short while. So I've done a lot of finance, and I realized that the finance guys aren't actually that smart, and hence why I think that you can do a better job.
Sounds good.
Great stuff, guys. Thank you very much.
Our next startup is the second to last. Welcome to the stage with a fresh microphone, a good clicker in hand. Slides are ready to go. Click to the next slide. Do we have a slide malfunction? Oh. Just a second. Give us a nice smile. Sorry, we got another technical difficulty with the slide.
Is everyone awake?
There you go. Give us a wave.
There we
What's
go.
the name of your company, at least?
Beam.
Beam. Brilliant.
Yes.
Tell us where you're from, Beam.
I'm from Tanzania.
Tanzania, brilliant.
Yep.
First time in Cape Town.
No, I've been here a bunch of times, but I love the city.
All right. I'm sort of avoiding encouraging you to start pitching, because if I was in your position, I would just do an elevator pitch before my actual pitch.
Should I start? So you want me to start? Wait.
Depends how catastrophic our failure is over there. Ladies and gentlemen, more tech savvy than me, how are we looking? I see a bunch of people frantically darting around computers.
Try, but it would be nice to have the slides.
No signal screen? Would that help? No, I'm just kidding. Cheers. All right, we're flying by the seat of our pants. I just thought I'd join Beam up here. What's your first name?
Taha.
Taha.
Taha, yeah.
Brilliant. Somebody's zooming. I'm seeing slides.
No, it's
looking good. Not looking good.
That's I think the next person.
Ladies and gentlemen, give us some good news quick.
Yeah, there we go.
That looks like a logo. Wait for it.
Should go back.
Boom. Slide back to the beginning.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
5 minutes on the clock. Take it away. Give him a round of applause. Yes. It's not easy standing up on an empty stage.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Taha. I'm the CEO and founder of Beam. We're a Pan-African cloud communications platform, and we enable the mobile building blocks for any African digital business. So we all know the Africa story. Mobile penetration is growing across all these markets, and smartphone adoption continues to grow every day, and consumers are moving to smartphones to purchase and transact. But Africa is a massive continent and is regionally very fragmented. SMEs, at the same time, now have to follow their consumers to where they are and serve them on these channels. And COVID has obviously accelerated this tremendously. But these SMEs, and these are the SMEs that are really going to empower Africa and get Africa to where it needs to be, need the right tools to grow and catapult their growth, right? And we provide, like I mentioned, the mobile building blocks, SMS, USSD, airtime, mobile payments, and chat on WhatsApp for these SMEs to transact and interact with their customers on a daily basis across Africa, all in one place. And we have packaged this into a web and mobile self-service tool called Beam Engage that allows these SMEs to do notifications, promotions, customer service, payments, reward on a self-service basis, but also Beam APIs that allow them to integrate with their internal systems, and as well as for developers to build on top of these APIs and build really cool stuff. And this allows them to go faster to market across all of Africa using our unified UI, our community, and our support. And we're not stopping there. We believe we want to take it from not just a communication platform as a service to an engagement platform. Enable these businesses to not only communicate with their customers, but figure out who they should be communicating to and what they should be saying. Using AI, automation, and other powerful technology. And our success to date shows this. We've processed about 1 billion plus transactions. We have 4,600 plus users on our platform and 41 mobile operators connected. We've been EBITDA positive for the last few years, and we've grown 27% and 17% this year alone in our user and MNO base. And the map shows we've done this across East, West, and Southern Africa in terms of connecting to mobile operators and working on the ground. And customers across the verticals trust us, both large and small, global and local, from financial services to technology companies, other CPaaS companies, retail, as well as consumer good companies. And the opportunity is massive. Just in the communication space, the CPaaS space, the Africa TAM is 2.5 billion, and the automation CDP space is 1.6 billion. And we're hoping to capture, out of the 3 million SMEs across Africa, at least 30,000 SMEs and get to 100 million in revenue in the next 7 years. And we have the team to execute on this vision. We have a combined experience in telecommunications, customer data platforms, and large technology projects across East Africa as well as in the US. And we'd like you to join us in our journey. We're raising our Series A of $4.5 million to get to 14,000 users and 55 mobile networks on our platform. And we're going to use that money to strengthen our management team, expand our technology, and grow to new markets. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. The customer engagement space is getting more and more crowded, especially recently. So how do you compete against other players? What is your competitive advantage?
So our differentiating factor is really, channels like SMS are still king because consumers are not fully smartphone enabled, and SMS is the only channel to reach all mobile users. So we go directly to mobile operators, and we've done the hard work of going to each country and to each network and signing them up. And we have about 23 countries that we have done this across. So we have the negotiating power, we have the right pricing strategy, and we're able to serve these customers directly through them.
Just following that question, who's your biggest competitor in Africa?
In Africa,
what have they done in that respect?
Sure. It's Africa's Talking is one of our competitors, and Infobip is another one. Africa's Talking is very developer focused, so they're not doing the self-service side and things along those lines. And the Infobip is a global company, and they've set up kind of local offices in certain regions. Their aggressive on the SMS side, but their product is very European or Western focused. It's not catered to African context.
And the likes of a Clickertel, do they fit into your world?
So Clickertel is actually our customer.
I know that.
Yeah.
They're also a competitor?
They could be a competitor in certain markets, but they're more US focused and South Africa focused, which are, yeah. But they could be.
How big are your competitors relative to you?
So the global providers are very big. Obviously, the Twilios and the Infobibs and stuff are much larger. But we're trying to address a certain segment that they're not serving.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause for Beam. Last but not least, coming to the stage, give a round of applause for
Jabu.
There he is. Thank you.
So my mother is Moroccan and my father is Spanish. My 3 brothers and I were born in Caracas, Venezuela. And at an early age, we were kidnapped, and my family decided that we would move to the United States as refugees. I grew up in the States. I had a fortunate education. I worked at Google, and I worked at Credit Suisse. But I spent my 4 years in banking wanting to travel to my mother's continent to figure out how I could become an entrepreneur with an impact. Like the buzz of these conversations we've had today, my first place to go to was Nigeria at 22. My blood was flowing. But eventually I came across Namibia when I convinced some investors to lend me $1 million to go build a mortgage platform to give home loans digitally. I had 1,000 people sign up and nobody to fund. There was nobody building housing. Investors got super upset, and I convinced them, listen, let me pivot. And we became builders. I spent the last 8 years of my career building housing in Namibia, Zambia, Cameroon. We built schools and homes. For people like this lady, Joanna. But what was amazing is that every time when we were building housing, I realized there was an informal sector next to the community where we were building. And we started donating like sewerage pipes and things that weren't so costly that could make a big impact. And that's when we realized there was a much bigger, scalable problem that we hadn't seen outside of housing, which was the economy in which we worked. I founded Jabu about 1.5 years ago. We're in YC and Endeavor. We're a B2B marketplace helping the small retailers source and stock their products. There are thousands of these guys, thousands, in the informal urban areas as supermarkets, mini markets, even restaurants. And there is no supply chain. And we're aiming to become Southern Africa's fastest growing e-commerce for these small retailers. When we came to the picture, right at the beginning of the pandemic, actually, an informal housing organization I used to work with came to me and said, the city of Windhoek shut down every small retailer in Windhoek. So I built an app pretty quickly, and I went back into the community where I worked. Actually did a master's in inclusive innovation at UCT, which sounds like a mouthful, but it's about how development comes from within. It's not about finding solutions, but really understanding problems. And I built an app with the community to digitize every single shop. About 2 weeks later, we had 1,500 shops registered and mapped. And the single problem we identified everywhere was they had to take a taxi to go to a retailer to buy at retail prices products to come resell in their community. Today, just like that picture showed, once you become one of our constant customers, we start upgrading your shop as well. So I can go later through some of the problems given time about why the informal retail economy has a lot of constraints. These are some of the types of customers we serve: retailers, bakeries, restaurants, bars, mini markets, street vendors. We're connecting Africa's largest network of retailers with FMCG brands. I described the problem as a problem of the small retailers. And what we're doing on this side is that we help all these small shops get the products they need on demand, just in time when they need them. But what nobody's really talking about is what we're doing with these brands. Today we have the likes of these brands not only working through us to be able to get the right pricing, but sponsoring our distribution, our trucks, and our warehousing. And the only way we were able to do that is by giving them access to a massive amount of data that they can see real time and live on dashboards to make not only manufacturing decisions or branding decisions, but most importantly, merchandising decisions, an area we've expanded into. This is Joanna, the lady at the front. When we started, she's one of our first customers. When I actually started this business, I went on my truck and started selling one by one to all the businesses we'd mapped. She was doing about 3,000 Rand a month. Today, she does closer to 13,000. This is our ecosystem of technology products, and I can go through what our app is and what our dashboard looks like. COVID-19 was the reason our business started to exist. Today, we've expanded into financial services, and I don't mean lending, but more of a marketplace for that. We're servicing about 5,500 customers, growing about 40%. We delivered about 50,000 products just last month. Our revenue has grown 25x since April, nearing $500,000 last month. Here's some more about our KPIs. Something amazing that we've expanded into now is merchandising. Brands are spending billions of dollars at supermarkets, and we're now going to give them the opportunity to go do that in the informal retail economy. There's more about our dashboard, but none of this could be done without the 187 employees we have today in our company, serving in 5 cities, headquartered in Namibia, and just last month expanded into Zambia. Thank you very much. I think that was my time.
Well done, thank you. All right, round of applause. Let's hear from the jury.
Thank you for the presentation. What is the biggest challenge that you have faced scaling your business, or in general, building your business?
Something I actually didn't get to talk about, which is the fact that we're 100% cash-based today. We do something no brand wants to do, no retailer wants to do, no bank wants to do. We collect money at every one of the drop-offs. When I started this business, I actually went to my construction bucky. I left my construction company. My brothers run it today. And I went to pick up money at every shop we were delivering. And I would get home with a stack of invoices. We had no tech, and a bag full of cash and coins. Today, our app reconciles every transaction on the spot. We've created cash centers, and we've partnered with banks to create this flow. But the most interesting part of how we've turned that struggle into an opportunity is we've now partnered with FNB and Standard Bank so that we're piloting right now that at spaza shops, small retailers, people can now come and withdraw and deposit money. The same problem these shops have, where they have to actually travel to a supermarket to buy stuff and bring it back and resell it. Anyone living today in a township in Southern Africa has to travel to a bank in town to deposit or withdraw money and come all the way back to their home. So it's a struggle. It's something we're trying to innovate on constantly and always looking for what else is being done in other parts of the world, I would say.
Could you speak a little more about the other companies that are doing similar work?
Yeah, this is something that's being done in Asia, in Latin America, also in Africa. I don't know other companies in Southern Africa. We're the only ones in Namibia doing this today. We compete with big supermarkets. I had the CEO of a very large retailer. Their logo is there, in case he's listening but not looking. Sit me down for breakfast and say, "Yes, man, you're disturbing the balance." And I proposed him something differently. I said, let's do something. Instead of disturbing the balance, why don't we go to the towns we don't think it's worth expanding into because of a cost perspective or a size perspective, and we plug in your telesales into our app so that we do the fulfillment of that. So I think we've tried to find partnerships with the people who would see us as a challenger, especially when we're starting to transact close to 10 million Rand in cash and coins, on a monthly basis.
Any expansion strategies, and if so, what are these?
So this is more of a plug against some of the things that have been said in the conference. When I went to raise money, everyone asked me, why Namibia? Well, the truth is I was in Namibia and we had a competitive advantage to actually make a play in the market. But what I also got from a lot of investors is, why Namibia? Why not Nigeria or South Africa or Kenya? So we will not be going to Nigeria or Kenya, where there are some competitors doing this. I think there is a huge opportunity to go do this at the bottom 25 of the top 50 cities that have a huge urban population. And when you hear about Jabu, we will be serving those cities where there are millions of people having the same problem. Today we're in Namibia and Zambia, soon Botswana, and Southern Africa is kind of our place, about 500 million people to service. Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, well done, thank you. Make your way down off the stage. Careful with that speaker in the microphone. I'm back to see you again with a big smile, lots of energy. How are we all feeling today? Or this afternoon even? Yeah, you see you're all sleepy again. Stretch it out again. It's all right. Don't feel embarrassed. Nice little yawn. And while you're yawning, while you're stretching, you can stretch this way, you can stretch that way, and put your hands together for yourselves, for our jury, for our startups. Over the course of today, we heard about 18 to 22 startups. Correct me if I'm wrong, but even if you don't, that's a lot. I heard about problems that I'd heard existed, and I heard about solutions that I had no clue existed. So I'm feeling pumped and excited. Not to give you guys a hard time, do you remember when I told you to put that slide back up on the screen? There it is, boom. Investor Night is a part of the package. There's no fee, there's no hustle and bustle to come. All you need is your little lanyard and your little name tag that'll get you through the door, and you come have a drink. Rum Elbows, it is at 2 Pierhead Road at the waterfront. It starts at about 6:30. Dress code, I repeat, is smart casual, so all you startups sporting the names of your t-shirts, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to take it off and put on a proper shirt. And join us all there. How are we feeling about that? Wow, you guys really are tired. Listen, I'm going to let you digest all the information you took down today. I'm going to let you scribble all your notes down, compile them in emails, head back to your hotel or wherever you're staying, take a quick shower, and join us for Investor Night. Give yourselves again a round of applause. Can we just try it out? All right, there we go. Give it a round of applause for our last jury. Thank you guys so much. The technical crew, the sound guy, everybody needs. You can pump up that music and send me out. Thank you. I'm so excited for day 2. Join us tomorrow, bright and early. Have a coffee with us. Have a good one. Bye. We